Good morning, everyone. It's 11. I see a lot of people joined, and we will get started. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome to Empower 2026. I'm Cassandra, I'm your host, and this is our 7th year hosting this free event for nonprofits. It's our way of giving back to the community, and we couldn't do it without our amazing partners, Microsoft and Line Zero. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, you might be wondering who is ProServeIT and why we are so passionate about this. Well, we are a technology consultancy and a Microsoft partner. We are also a very proud B Corp and recognized as one of Canada's top small medium business employers. Think of us as your full stack technology partner. We handle the big ideas like AI prototyping and training, and the must-haves like cybersecurity and data. As a managed service provider, we also handle the tech, so you can focus 100% on your mission. We believe that technology should be personalized and human-centered. That's why today's theme is Human Purpose Meets AI. Now, some housekeeping items. Today is a single 3-hour journey on Microsoft Teams. So if you need to exit the meeting, you can just join back with the same link at any time. We'll be running continuous sessions through the conference, so feel free to rejoin whenever you're ready. Plus, we are recording everything. So after the event, you will receive the full session recordings and slide decks by email, so you won't miss a thing. Your mics and cameras are off, but please use the chat to engage. We will be actively monitoring and answering any questions that you may have. We have a packed agenda focusing on 3 pillars: automation, connection, and collaboration. To kick us off, please welcome our CTO, Jamie McMahon. Jamie is here to help us clear the AI fog and find the best place to start your journey. Jamie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cassandra, and welcome everyone to this year's Empower. So as Cass mentioned, we will be talking and kicking things off with AI, and I know there's probably more than a few groans in the audience because I suspect that, like many, you've heard a lot of, not noise, but lots of information, probably attended a number of sessions around AI. And so I want to make sure that for today, we're going to deliver something that's impactful but practical. With that in mind, I also know that there's probably a broad spectrum. I've seen this over the last few years where you've got people that are very early in the journey, and you've also got folks quite far advanced. And sometimes it's quite difficult to kind of thread the needle in terms of what that content's going to look like and speak to that will resonate with all of the audience. So I'm going to do my best to try and thread the needle, so to speak, and targets kind of that mid spot. So nothing right at the beginning of the journey and nothing really at the tail end of the journey from an AI perspective. So let's get into it. As Cassandra mentioned, my name is Jamie, and really what my hope to do is really take the tech out of the technology, and I really want to focus on the business impact and the ability for all of us to achieve more with our missions through the use of AI or anything else. So to start, I'm going to use this analogy, and normally when I describe this as fog, but for those of us that were impacted by that great big snowstorm that occurred just the last this past weekend, maybe this can be a snow squall or snow. And I want you to imagine yourself as this car driving through this road. You've got thick fog, you can barely see in front of you, you don't really know what's going on, where the road is, are you on the road, are you close to a ditch? Like all of those questions are kind of in your mind, and you've got some decisions to make, right? Do you go faster? Do you slow down? Do you stop? Do you pull over? Like all of these things are decisions that you need to make because your visibility is poor and you really can't see where you're going. And so if we were to flip this analogy from a technology perspective, this is really what I see. This fog is what I see most organizations kind of having to navigate right now when it comes to technology, especially because of where AI fits inside of that. Specifically, right, do we deploy AI? Do we not do something? Do we barrel ahead and really kind of go all in on AI? Do we pause? Do we do nothing and really kind of just wait for the dust to settle? this is the same type of analogy that I see. And I think the approach that businesses take is really going to depend on your individual risk tolerances, right? And what is the impact that you're looking to make through this? Are you going to go deploy? Should you speed up? Should you slow down? And I think universally, what most people are doing and what I would encourage is that to move forward, but with caution, right? With intention, with purpose. But what I would encourage not to do is don't stop, right? Don't do nothing. Because if you're not looking at this, if you're not figuring out how technology is going to help you achieve your mission, then there's a risk of being left behind or being hit from behind, so to speak. And if you're just barreling ahead, there's some reward of that, but just be aware of the risks. So hopefully what we will attempt to do is, how do we create more visibility in the road ahead for us, right? How do we make it so that we can see at least more than just the taillights that we're following? Hopefully we can get to 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet of visibility to the point where maybe our destination isn't quite clear, but our journey becomes much more clear. So to frame it, because I think there's a lot of, when we hear the word AI, and especially in the context of business, it can be confusing, right? What is AI? So I'm not gonna, I think all of us here, I suspect, have used ChatGPT or Copilot, have done some prompting, maybe asked for some vacation advice or things like that. And in that capacity, it's quite effective. But when we think about it from a work point of view, it becomes less clear. And the way that we view it is there's kind of two paths that businesses and organizations should be thinking about when they look at AI. On the one path, there's productivity. And this is really all about all of us as workers, as contributors, have tasks that we do that are integral to doing our job. And from a productivity perspective, what we want to do is we want to figure out how we help make these more effective, more efficient. So I still need to do the task, but maybe I can do it faster, or maybe I can do it with more accuracy, right? That's really productivity. But there's also the innovation side. And innovation can mean a lot of things to a lot of folks. And in this context, what we really think of when we think of innovation is those same tasks that we look to make more efficient. Because of where technology is today, there's likely opportunities for us to look at that and say, well, is there a way for us to even not have to do this task, right? Can we create an opportunity where the technology performs this task that we're looking to do, and really I can focus on something else, right? And obviously there's lots of guardrails and things that we need to think about when we look at that, but that's really what we're thinking about when we're thinking about innovation. So I'm going to talk about both of these, but first let's focus on productivity, because I suspect this is where most businesses are and are thinking about when they're thinking about AI and artificial intelligence. And this is where most organizations are likely to begin their journey from an AI perspective. So where I see things right now from an AI set point of view is that most organizations, not-for-profits, are definitely in this category where you'll have pockets of people that are vigorously using AI to do a task, right? And you're going to have a few champions, a few people, maybe even you have a few licenses of Copilot, maybe you've got some folks using ChatGPT on the side, and they're individually productive, right? But when we think about it organizationally, we want to shift, we want to move from having a few folks be individually productive, and we want to move to organizational productivity, i.e., that we are using this technology with intention, with purpose. It's baked into our business workflows, into our process, and all of the folks that are in a specific job or function understand and know how to apply this technology in the context of their role and inside their work. And that's a hard leap to get to when we're moving from, okay, I know how to help it make me write an email or summarize a meeting, to, oh, it's actually going to make my job and my workflow better and more efficient. So we want to move from these early exploratory stages where, again, I suspect that most of this audience here sits in that level one, where AI is probably not delivering true organizational value. There is likely not clear direction or use cases for AI. We might not know how to measure it, and I suspect that only a small number of our team members have some form of paid license for AI, Copilot, ChatGPT, or anything else, right? And we want to move from that all the way over to the right, where we can recognize AI as a critical productivity driver, that we understand and we have multiple of these use cases per team. And so what does that look like? Well, I find sometimes it's the easiest to start with an example. So I've just picked this simplified workflow that I suspect everyone here has in some capacity. And it is really tough. When I was thinking about, okay, what type of an example do I want to present to this audience here? And the one thing about charities and not-for-profits is all of us, all of you, do such impactful work, but it's so different, right? We can have everything from a food bank to someone that helps with medical research to something that's doing patient outreach or something. There's all sorts of a variety of what that can look like. But one thing I know is that everyone here has team members and we all go through a hiring process. So I figured this is a great place to start. And then I've got a couple of more specific examples that I think might resonate with a few of you. So when we look at this, we've got a 4-step, again, simplified interview process or talent acquisition, I think is what I described it as. And we go everything from posting the job to getting the interview until what happens after the interview. And so what I want us to focus on or think about here is, just for this part anyways, from a productivity perspective, is what about the interview phase? And if we think about the last time that everyone here may have hired someone or themselves participated in an interview, you know that there's probably things that you can do to prepare before the interview. There's the actual interview itself where you're going to be answering questions and engaging with folks. And then you're going to be, there's activities and things that happen post-interview. And this is true of almost any business process that exists inside of your organization, where you're going to have pre, during, and post activities tied to an element of a business process. So if we look at this interview phase, I'm going to start with the step that might occur before the actual interview itself. So what if we had a tool, and again, it was, we all understood that this was part of the process and that we engaged with AI, again, whatever your tool of choice would be. And I think, and I'll describe why I think Copilot was probably the right choice for this. But what if we were all to engage with that and ask it in a structured manner, right? I am hiring for a role. I want you, AI, to help me assess this candidate. Not assess it, sorry. I don't think we're there yet where AI, or I don't know if we ever will be there where we want AI to assess candidates for us. But we likely want them to help us think about questions to ask or come at it from a different approach that we wouldn't be able to think about. So if we had a prompt like this that said, okay, hey, help me design an interview for someone that's going to assess this individual's hard skills, soft skills, culture fit, right? Here's the context for the role. I'm interviewing for this role. Here are our organization's values. Here is the job description. And I want you to help me build questions that is going to assess the hard skills, right? Practical, scenario-based things. I want you to think about soft skills, right? How are they behaving? How do they communicate? How do they work and interact with a team? I want you to think about culture fit, right? How do they align or contribute to our values? And how are they going to frame, how can we help them frame this as a culture add? And how can they enrich our culture versus just searching for the sameness? And for each of these, can we help me understand what are the questions I should ask, what a strong answer looks like, what are some red flags I should look out for, and help me understand what competency or behavior that question's testing. So if you look at this, you'll say, okay, that's helpful. And I understand that many businesses or many organizations likely have a syllabus of questions, standard questions they ask, and they follow that. So I want you to really think about this as just an example business process or workflow. But one thing you'll notice here is this is a very long prompt. And I suspect it is something that most folks here are not used to actually writing into Copilot when they're engaging with it, right? Because most of us have built our AI habits and we're carrying them through from previous generations of technology. And specifically, I'm talking about Google here. I suspect that most of the folks here spend a lot of the time Googling AI. And what Googling and browser searching has taught us is we don't want 10 words, 50 words, right? We probably want to focus on what are the specific keywords that I want to look for. Versus when we're talking to AI, we want to give as much context as possible, right? We want to help it understand exactly what we're looking to do. And what that actually looks like is something like this, where we have a prompt and we want to target at least 100 words, right? If there's not 100 words in a prompt, in my opinion, at least when it sits inside of a business workflow, it's not enough. It's not going to deliver results. And that, I think, also leads to many folks that may have tried AI, played around with it for a few minutes, and was like, I don't get it, right? I don't really see how this is going to make an impact in my business. I don't understand the alignment to a business process or workflow. It's because we need to think about it like this, where we're integrating it into a process, and everyone that's going to go higher is going to use this prompt or a version of this prompt to help build their questions and enrich their thinking. And if we're to go back, right, that I described the process as there's a before, during, and after, we can think that same way about all of those steps here, right? What if in the middle of the interview, again, maybe we're doing it over Teams, and we could ask Copilot in the middle of the Teams question saying, hey, I'd love you to point out or let me know if you caught any red flags or points of positive interest, right? Stuff that I think are strengths in the candidate. And are there questions that I should ask to really help figure out, okay, are these red flags actual red flags? Or are these questions that I can ask that are going to be, really help us narrow in and focus on, okay, is this strength just like a superstar? And we need to nurture and really help those strengths kind of come out. And because AI will have access to the transcript, like it's actively recording and listening to the interview, it'll have the ability to contribute and help you ask good questions of the candidate to really help you figure out, not just taking the questions we asked before, but adding the additional context of the actual interview itself and using that to inform it, right? And the reason why I think that there's an effectiveness there is because when we're using a tool like Copilot, it's going to have access to all of our organizational data that sits in Office 365. It's going to understand who we are, what we do, how we engage with our constituents, whether they be employees or folks that we help in the community, right? They're going to understand all of that, well, what makes our organization tick, and that's going to help enrich the types of questions that it's going to suggest that we answer, or that we ask, sorry. And again, I know I picked the hiring process, and this can be a bit of a touchy one because there's a lot of instances where we might not want to do this, right? We certainly don't want to use AI to assess the candidate, right? We want to make sure that we as people are the ones at the helm, that we are the ones that are just using this as a tool to help us perform that task better, right? But again, if we think about this from a process perspective, we can have things before, during, and after each of these steps in the workflow. And there's where I think we get to really true business value or true differentiation. Okay, so I talked about productivity. I want to move to innovation, right? And I think this is a swim lane that is likely going to create the largest advantage for this community here. And one of the things I think that charities and not-for-profit, the community doesn't necessarily think of is, especially now, right? I know that everyone here is probably feeling the stress. Like we've talked to all of our customers and people that we interact with in this community. We understand how pressured budgets are now, and how doing what you're doing, achieving your mission today, is 10 times more difficult, 100 times more difficult than it was just a year ago or 2 years ago. And so we really want to think about how are we going to innovate, how are we going to rethink things so that we can do more with less, right? And that do more with less doesn't necessarily mean I want to reduce my team. It really just means I want to increase the impact that I'm making on the community or, in my mission. And so we want to, where possible, we want to take tasks that are onerous, that are repetitive, that are high friction, and if it's ready, where AI is today, it is increasingly capable of performing higher complexity tasks, right? We need to think about AI as today, our experience with AI, this is going to be the worst experience today, is going to be the worst experience with AI you will ever have in your life. right? If we think about where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, leaps and bounds better now, and that is going to continue, right? So we need to make these decisions and assessments based on not necessarily even where the tech is today, but where we feel it's going to get to 6 months from now, 12 months from now. And that's where we get to innovation. And so we want to get beyond productivity, because productivity, quite frankly, is where every organization is going to go, right? Everyone's going to look for opportunities to make us more effective and efficient. But it's how do we use our data? How do we use the things that are specific to our business? That's what's going to allow us to really catapult or leapfrog, our peers in terms of looking for donations or donor impact, or all of those types of things. And so we want to move from not really thinking about or using AI from a productivity perspective, and we want to move over to we have at least one of these use cases deployed in practice, so we have an understanding of what good looks like and what the art of the possible is. Because I think this swim lane here is sometimes the hardest to really think about how it's going to make a difference for your business, or connecting the ideas to how to make it a reality. So I'm going to take the same process that I described before, but I'm going to look at a different step, right? I'm going to take the screening step here. And again, I know that this is a process that we all have, but like, what if, let's say we're a very seasonal not-for-profit. Let's say we run camps for children, and as part of that, we had to hire a large number of people heading into the summer or the warm months if we're in somewhere that has seasons. And what if we could take those interviews, or those resumes, sorry, and have AI screen them? And I don't say screen them in terms of good fit, not fit, but if it was something as simple as, this candidate has this skill, I'm looking for this skill or this specific piece of experience, and just filter it, right? Give me all of these ones, AI read all of them and filter it down. And again, I know these tools exist. They've been out in the market for a while, and I'm using this just as an example to show that, hey, if we as a business intake lots of things, right, then we can have AI read it, interpret it, and take action on that on our behalf. We've worked with more medical-oriented not-for-profits that kind of do not patient care, but work with patients, right? And one of the things that they get a lot of is doctor requisitions and doctor notes, right? And we work with them to help take all of those and turn those into lab requisitions or order forms or whatever the case may be, right? We want to look for opportunities to a task that's difficult, or sometimes even hard, right? I think doctors are notorious for having terrible handwriting, and there's opportunities where AI might actually do a better job of reading that doctor's writing than a person would, because it would have a far broader range of examples for what that would look like. So again, I think I think there's lots and lots of opportunity here. So I'm going to move into, because I think, again, I mentioned that in this innovation swim lane, connecting the art of the possible into what this can look like can sometimes be difficult. And I wanted to focus on 4 areas where I feel that AI is actually at the point now where it can deliver real value, right? And do things at a point where it's not going to cost 7 figures, not going to cost 6 figures even, right? We're talking about things that we can deploy inside of a week. That's really what we want to focus on. We don't want these large, complicated IT projects that take months and hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Sometimes that's going to be required, but for some of these things, we can do them really, really, really quickly. Things like translation, right? This is not surprising. This is something that would be really clearly a good thing for AI to do. But when we get to this vision and document, right, this is stuff that's rapidly getting really, really, really good, right? We want AI to be able to look at things and interpret it, right? That can be pictures, that can be maps. We work with a not-for-profit that, one of the things they do is they work with a community, and to do that, they actually need to have land. And so one of the ideas is, okay, well, we want to be able to look at a map, right? Google Maps, for example, and we want to assess areas of the community, look for churches, and other parishes, things like that, that have undeveloped land. And we want to identify that based on the acreages on the map. And we want to then build a proposal to send to that church so that we can help create outreach or help achieve our mission. And we want to do that in partnership with the church. But rather than having someone, drag and drop or look up all the churches, we just want to have AI read through and look at the maps, identify those opportunities, flag them, and then we can go and take the next step from there. Right? That's a capability that is achievable and really not that difficult anymore. We also have speech, right? So speech to text, text to speech. I kind of skipped this one, but I think this is a really clear one. And the final one is around content and safety. So we're really looking for opportunities to say, are there things out there based on what we're doing with our mission where we are concerned about the safety of the content that we're producing, or that maybe the community is delivering back? How can we automatically look for these types of things? So lots and lots of opportunities in here to figure out ways where AI can really positively innovate inside your business. So I'll pause. I think I have time probably for 1 or 2 questions. I have been reading. I know there's some questions in the Q&A piece tied to note takers as well as certificates. So I'm going to let the team answer those because I see that the answers are in there. If there's any questions from the content, because really what I want what I hope is that everyone here can say, yeah, this has maybe changed my perspective on things, or I've got questions specific to my organization. So I have a question, Lydia, about the completed matrix for sure. There you go. No problem. Vicente, you said, did you say secure GPT in the beginning? I don't think so. I did see that question. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't say secure GPT. I would have said either like what we see most is businesses using either ChatGPT or Copilot. We have a strong opinion that Copilot delivers far higher value than ChatGPT, especially in the long run, because it's going to have the context and the ability to see all of the data that sits in your side of your Office 365 environment. Again, the assumption is that you're using Microsoft. If you're using Google, then that might change things. I would actually then recommend Gemini over ChatGPT, again, because it's going to have access to that data. There's a question there. Doesn't Copilot really run off OpenAI? Actually, it doesn't. Copilot uses a number of models, right? At the bottom, there's the LLM, which performs the function of the AI, but really it's what Microsoft does is they need to make sure it wraps around it from a privacy, from a compliance perspective. Again, you got to think about a large enterprise organization like Microsoft that has customers in all sorts of regions and areas of the world, and they need to make sure these tools have the ability to operate in those from a compliance perspective, right? So that they follow the rules, whether that's the California Privacy Act or GDPR in Europe or whatever the case may be. I see a couple of tool questions, nonprofit CRMs. There's probably a takeaway question. Perplexity. I think Perplexity is great. Again, all of these things are just tools. I really want to focus on the use case. So if there's any questions, I will be hanging around in the back. I did want to make sure I had a chance to answer some of these, but I do want to talk about what's next. So there's a few things. Again, I understand that there's a lot of not-for-profits here, a lot of charities delivering really high value to your communities. One of the things that we hear often from folks is, okay, we attended something like this, and I'd really love you to kind of deliver this or a similar message to my board or to my leadership team, because we want to create alignment across the board. So obviously we can't make this offer to everyone on this call. I think that would be very difficult, but we are going to have do host a raffle for 5 lucky winners to have a private executive briefing session similar to this, except I do it a little bit differently when we go on from a one-to-one perspective. And Cassandra can kind of walk us through what that might look like. And before I do that, the second thing I do want to talk about is the notion of an AI prototype. So I mentioned before where we really want to look at things in an agile capacity. We don't want to spend weeks or months, deploying this stuff. We want to get to this stuff in days. And some of the ways that we think about that is how do we get to a prototype as quickly as possible? And so we do have a program where we work with businesses to do that inside of 3 days. Sometimes that 3 days can extend to a week or 2 weeks, but really no more than that, because we want to get to a point where we can assess the value of it as quickly as possible. So I'll say, Cassandra, anything else to add on either of these two things?
All good. You will be receiving the email with all of these details, so you can read it calmly at your own time. We are going to move forward to the second session, and then at the end of the event, I will come back to all of these offers. So more on that there. Thank you so much, Jamie. We really appreciate your talk. And now we feel that the path through the fog feels much clearer. So thank you again. And this leads us right into our next session, which is building human connection at scale in the age of AI. In hospice care, empathy is everything. To talk about how AI can actually protect that human heart, please welcome Joy Fajardo, Amanda Hejera from Line Zero, along with Sandra Dillon, Vice President of Administrative Services and Engagement at Hospice of the Chesapeake. They have an incredible story about using tech to support trust, not to replace it. Amanda, Sandra, and Joy, the floor is yours.
What an amazing way to kick off. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Cassandra, for the intro as well. And hello, everyone. So as you heard, this session is going to be about building human connection at scale, especially in hospice care, where empathy is really foundational. So we want to make sure that you get the most out of this session. So let's dive right in. Good morning, Sandy and Amanda.
Good morning.
All right. So
Good morning.
Sandy. Hey. So I want to get started with Sandy. So let's start at the heart of your work. For those meeting Hospice of Chesapeake for the very first time, can you please share who you serve and why human connection is so essential to your mission?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody. As Joy said, Sandy Dillon at Hospice of the Chesapeake. We are a healthcare provider on the continuum of care in Maryland. We serve about a 1.5 million residential population, and we're caring for about 1,000 patients every day. So when you hear hospice, I think that means to you end of life, those last couple of days in life, and I'm here to tell you that's not the case. We're caring for patients pre-diagnosis, at diagnosis, their 6 month on hospice care, and their families afterwards. So it's a long continuum of care. We're taking care of people, not numbers. We're taking care of families, and they need a human connection, plain and simple. That's what hospice care is about. It's about reaching someone in the comfort of their home or in the facility where they live and making it a one-to-one relationship. People do not want to deal with AIs or automated phone systems when they're at that point of their life. So it's really about one-to-one connection and making sure they're getting the care that they want, when they want it, and where they want it.
Thank you so much, Sandy. That
Sure.
really grounds us in what's at stake here, right? Human connection, it's not a nice to have in hospice care. It is foundational. And when connection matters that much, alignment behind the scenes actually becomes just as critical. So I wonder, can you walk us through a specific moment where alignment and connection truly mattered? You know, that moment when your team's ability to kind of work together made a real impact and difference for a patient or, say, a family whom you're serving.
Sure. Great example is one of our nurses goes into someone's home, to the patient's home, and there's been a change in their care. There's been a change in where they are in that disease trajectory. And something is happening, a crisis moment that's happening. We need all other 250 clinical technicians to be able to know that information right away. So they need to be able to touch each other and understand and say, hey, this family could call into the office 5 minutes after I leave, and I want everybody to understand where that family is. We don't want an environment where the family's like, well, the nurse just left and you guys don't know what's going on. So us staying connected as a team and relying on each other is really critical to our success. our success as an organization, and frankly, that patient family experience, which is unique to them. They don't know there's 600 other patients being taken care of, and we don't want them to worry about that. We want them to know what's happening with their loved one in that moment, and the rest of the organization has access to that information. Obviously, we use an electronic medical record for that kind of information, but still staying connected as a group is critically important for us.
That's a great example. And I feel what really stood out is that because people kind of feel aligned and supported, they could really focus better on the organization's mission, and that
Absolutely.
good communication didn't get in the way of the care. It actually made care even more efficient, more possible, right?
It does. And also imagine that you're a nurse who's on the road all day long and you're seeing 6 or 7 patients that day. You don't have time to wonder what's happening behind the scenes. You don't have time to say, let me read these 16 emails. So we need a product and an environment, a platform that allows them super easy access to the information that helps them as an employee so they can be
Hmm.
unburdened by that and take care of the people that they need to care for.
Amazing. I guess moments like that kind of becomes harder to protect as organizations grow. So I wonder, as Hospice of the Chesapeake grew with hundreds of staff, many external stakeholders, what actually became harder to sustain around alignment and trust? And how did those challenges kind of shape the questions or concerns that come up when you began discussing about AI and engagement platforms?
Yeah, I mean, again, we want our team to stay engaged as much as possible. We want them to have the information at their fingertips. As we grew as an organization, we had a major acquisition in 2020 and another major acquisition in 2022. So those organizations came with their own culture and their own way of communicating. So we had to find a way to make 330 employees feel like they're part of a family. We had to figure out a way for those 330 employees who all different roles, might be administrative, might be in the field, might be IT. We had to find a way for them to feel connected with each other, to
Hmm.
then connect with our mission. A nurse might feel like she's on her own out there all day long, but she needs to know that she has, 329 other employees who are there. And how do we do that? How do we keep a sense of community? How do we keep a sense of family, and not become too corporate, right? Like a large organization, I mean, we're a $50 million organization per year. And so that's easy to get lost in that. It's easy to not feel like it. So when we looked at products, we were looking at things that could achieve our goals corporate and achieve our goals clinically, but also create community. That was probably the piece that we were really missing, was the community piece. And so how do I feel like I'm part of the nursing community? How do I feel like I'm part of my team? And then how do I feel like I'm part of the larger Hospice of the Chesapeake team? It was a lift. It was a heavy lift to do that, and I'm not sure that we necessarily knew what the answer looked like. We needed some tools and some help and some support. And Amanda has been terrific with that for us to really help us navigate that. Like, what's the question, and then what do we have that we could answer that question with? And sometimes we didn't know what the question was. Because if you have
Hmm.
the absence of community, then you don't know what it looks like to have community. So we really went along those lines to try to figure out, what's the right space for us. Because we are a human services organization, we don't like to feel corporate, plain and simple. We don't like that approach. We want community approach. We want local, specific community and connection.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Sandra. And Amanda, do you want to add on to that?
Absolutely. Just as Sandy said, with building on these engagement platforms with AI coming into the game field, the intention is to use AI to help centralize that communication and protect that trust and culture just as the organization grows, right? We want to use AI and these engagement platforms and technology to help with the growth and make it smoother without losing that human connection, without replacing people. We want to help it to, reduce noise while also protecting the trust as the organization is slowly scaling into something bigger.
Amazing. I guess one thing I got from here is that growth doesn't really break the culture, but it kind of exposes where those informal systems just stop working. And this is really where this whole conversation just stops being about the tools, but it actually starts being about the intention. So, Amanda, from the Line Zero's perspective, what were you hearing from Hospice of Chesapeake and any other nonprofits you've worked with that really signaled, oh, this wasn't about just adding a new tool, but it's actually about protecting their culture, their clarity, and their trust?
Absolutely. Such an amazing question. So from the very beginning with a lot of, non-for-profits and especially with the Hospice of Chesapeake, from the start when I started talking to Sandy, when we discussed adding this new platform, adding a new platform to the organization, the goal behind it was never to just add a new platform. It was more about protecting the culture that they have and enhancing it and making it a better experience for the culture. Just like Cindy mentioned, they're not just numbers. These are people and nurses that are helping make a difference in people's lives, right? So we wanted to use technology that was led with their purpose, with their mission, right? I heard this desire of creating this trusted culture, this trusted community for the staff, for the volunteers, everyone from frontline workers to everyone in the behind the scenes that could have access to everything, but
Mm-hmm.
without creating any sort of friction. So at the same time, just as you guys mentioned, with technology, with AI, there's always this little worry behind it that you're going to lose that human touch, that things are just going to become too automated. And that's what organizations worry about a lot, which is a completely valid idea. But that also shows us how deep emotional connection and trust and values is at the core of using AI and technology. So, from my perspective, this using AI and technology wasn't just simply adding a new platform or a new platform decision. It was more of a cultural one that was led by the purpose and the value and the mission of the organization because we wanted to focus on using technology and AI in a thoughtful way where it actually enhanced clarity, it enhanced connection while keeping the people and the emotional connection at the core and at the center of it all.
One thing I
Wow.
really appreciate,
Yeah.
Joy, about Amanda and the Line Zero team is that they jumped in to learn our culture. They weren't just like, this is how it works. They were like, tell us about that. Tell me more. They were curious about how we managed our organization. I'm sure there's a different culture in every organization that they work with,
True.
but we didn't feel like it was cookie cutter. We didn't feel like they were saying to us, here's how you need to do it. They were learning about our culture, and really it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know the team over a 3 or 4 month period. It wasn't like, okay, here you are, it's built, launch Tuesday, see ya. So it's been a great relationship, and they've learned, and Amanda's been spectacular about being curious about the work we do.
It's
Thank you
amazing.
so much, Sandy. Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
amazing. Like, I feel like technology sits at the middle, but the culture in the organization, Hospice of Chesapeake, and the culture of Line Zero is actually what makes it very human. And I also love the framing of Amanda that it's never about digitizing. It was more like, let's be more deliberate, let's be more intentional about how people experience the organization as a whole. So, yeah, I love that. Now, let's talk about what that looked like in practice. So, Sandy, can you share a particular technology that has really helped you and your team at Hospice of Chesapeake build connection at scale?
Yeah, it's very interesting because we're a very, again, non-corporate organization, even though we're a large organization. And there's a lot of fear around technology and AI that it's going to replace the human touch that we have. So a lot of fear every time we bring up anything like this, like, oh no,
Hmm.
now we're all going to just be, bytes and bits, and we're not going to have. What we have found and what we've tried to share with our team is that this gives you more time to be connected. We're taking away the mundane tasks that you have to do, and that gives you more time to connect with your colleagues, more time for you to be with patients and families. You don't have to keep worrying about where am I clicking, what am I doing. In a healthcare environment, there's a lot of things that we're required to do. And so taking any of that off the team is really helpful. Our electronic medical record helps that too. We have AI built in. Your previous presenter, we have speech to text. They can talk into their phones and it will go automatically into their electronic medical record, which is much more robust than typing a sentence, right? Like you're going to elaborate when you're speaking in a totally different way. So we've been trying to cross those barriers of that fear. And I think this WorkVivo is going to be a really good example of people going to feel like, well, why do I need to go there? Why is that an extra thing I have to do? But hopefully they'll recognize that in the end, it's creating community in a very different way.
All right. So Sandra, you mentioned WorkVivo there very briefly, but for most of our audience, they're not familiar what WorkVivo is. Sandra or Amanda, can you just briefly touch on what is WorkVivo?
Amanda, you want to go ahead and then I'll follow up?
Absolutely. So WorkVivo is really, it's a wonderful engagement and communication platform that's basically a hub for everything you want just in one place. It has AI, it has your documents, it has your posts, it has everything that can range from recognizing how wonderful employees are to creating that communication between employees where they can communicate with each other on a day-to-day basis. So just as Sandy said, when you are an organization, an NFP that's, has a lot of information in the background. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on. It's a wonderful place to have one place that connects everybody in one simple way, where everyone also has access to everything just in one spot.
We have, we're still in our launch phase, so we haven't rolled out completely. But a great example for you is in the past, if we had a snowstorm like we had on the East Coast this year in the United States in Maryland, it would have felt like every individual team member was on their own, right? Like they have to dig out, they have to get to their patients and all of that. So previously, I had no way of sharing that. So WorkVivo is going to give me the opportunity to say, let's all hang in there together. Hey, staff members, post a picture of how much snow's on your car, how you're getting out. Give us a story about maybe how you handled that. I had a family story this week where the family called in because the nurse literally shoveled her way into the home and shoveled her way out of the home. And the family was in tears because they imagined with the snowstorm, nobody would ever come and help them and take care of their loved one. So previously to having a platform like WorkVivo, I had no place to share that other than another email. And so with WorkVivo, when we get to that level of that kind of content, I think it's just going to be a great opportunity for the staff themselves to share those stories, to say, here's what I'm going through, here's what my day looks like, and then create that sense of we're in this all together.
That's amazing. I'm just actually about to ask about examples. Sandy already gave a great one. Amanda, what have you heard or have you seen any specific examples as well of how WorkVivo has been used? And what are the improvements? How did it feel different for the people who are using it?
Absolutely. So, WorkVivo sometimes, just as Sandy says, I have many organizations that use WorkVivo as their sole purpose of communication. That's all they have to communicate with their employees, whether they are in different countries, in different cities. WorkVivo is their main platform of communication. So that not only can they use that for work, they can use it to communicate with each other. They can talk to each other. We want to think of WorkVivo, and many of my non-for-profit clients have used WorkVivo in the sense where this is not just another platform where you just go check for updates or for news. No, this is where you can also check for updates and news, but you can also talk to your team, talk to your staff, talk to your organization, see how everyone's life is doing. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's work that there's no family culture. So WorkVivo itself it's not just a work platform, but it's a cultural, it's a community platform that can be used for so many different ways. And many of my clients, after they've used the platform, when they implement the platform, like I said, that is their only source of communication with everyone. They don't have in-person offices. That is what they use to communicate with everyone else. And like Sandy mentioned, when you have nurses that are in different areas that, you can't just quickly pick up and say, hello, I need you to do this and this, or you want to update people in a quick response, that's where such a platform comes into use, because you're communicating with everyone, but you're also connecting with everyone. And that's the purpose that we want.
What I
Those
really
are,
appreciate
yep.
about WorkVivo is that it's a two-way communication tool. So it's not
Yes.
just internal communications, us pushing out messages. It is the ability for the team to then communicate in return, or communicate what's important to them or what they're experiencing. We haven't had that before. We have not had a place for people to share what they're going through or what their experience is, or how they're responding to the internal communications we're sending out. You know, maybe we send out a communication and somebody in the field saying that doesn't work for us. If you're a nurse in the field, what you just said doesn't work. We haven't had a place for them to then respond or comment or have a reaction to the communications that we sent out. So I'm really looking forward to creating, you know, more of a listening platform,
Mhm.
as well as a communication platform.
Amazing. The key theme for me that I'm hearing here is that technology, no matter what it is, WorkView or any others, it should work for work related items, but at the same time, it should be able to support the culture. And as Sandy said, two-way communication, not just in the past, it's top down and you just listen. Now is both ways. Like you have to speak, but you also have to listen. So I really love that. But naturally, it raises questions people are often hesitant to ask out loud. So, Amanda, a question for you. For our non technical audience, where does AI quietly support that experience? And where do humans stay fully in control? Because the hesitation is there. Like, will I still have control? Like, can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So for a non-technical audience, AI really quietly supports in the background. We may not notice it, but it really makes things simpler. It makes it more intuitive. So AI itself, it's going to help people find information faster. And that's the purpose that we want to use it for. We're not using AI to cover or replace that human connection. We're using it so that we can make it easy for employees, for staff, whether it's internal or external, to free up more of their time to do more tasks to help more people, right? So AI is just going to be there. It's going to help you find that information faster, that document faster. It's going to, all those updates, it's going to help you surface it way faster, and it's going to keep that content organized for your employees so that it's not all over the place, right? You don't have to constantly think, oh, I need this, I need this. Where do I find it? Where does it live? Or how to search for it? It just works, and it's quietly helping you in the background. So where humans stay fully in control, it's in everything, because with AI, you're just using it in the background, but the humans itself, they're the ones that are bringing in that trust and that culture. So the leaders and the staff, they decide what's communicated and how it's communicated or where it lives. And teams can choose how they're going to recognize one another or tell their stories or show up for each other. AI is not gonna cover that human connection. It never could. The tone and the values and the emotional connection, all of that always will be human led. AI is going to be helping, supporting in the background, just making it easier, reducing that friction and freeing up more time for an organization, for the staff and employees to continue with that emotional connection and those missions that they have that they want to achieve.
Do you have anything to add there, Sandy?
Yeah, you know, I do think that's been a big fear is that AI is going to take over, right?
Hmm.
Or a platform like this is superficial. And I think what I'm hoping to be able to do is really assure our teams that AI it's a tool, it's a support function, it's not taking over. But the other thing that I'm really hoping we can utilize is real conversation with the AI. Not I have to understand the technical terms or have to think, literally, I can ask a question like I could ask Amanda a question, and that tool will help us, because sometimes we don't know where to look or what we're looking for. We need actually
Hmm.
to say to somebody, hey, where would I find this? Rather than spending 20 minutes clicking through a bunch of files and documents and that sort of stuff. So that's where I'm really hoping that the AI can help us, is efficiency and gathering information, but that also feeling like it's not some big scary beast out there that, you know, is going to eliminate anybody's jobs. We
Hmm.
are we are not about that. We are about hiring more people to take care of more people because those tasks are in the background, they're taken care of. We have a lot of tools that we're using from an AI perspective around auditing, where we would have to have a full-time person auditing, charts for patients. Now that task happens in 15% of their day, and they're freed up to do other things that really impact patients and families. So that's but it's a big hurdle. It's a big hurdle. A lot of people are very fearful. They're very fearful that it's like watching you and what you're doing. And so we've got to find ways to get by that. And I think WorkVivo for us is going to be one of those leaps forward and saying, wow, this is like having an assistant. That's how I look at it. It's like me having a full-time executive assistant. In my role, I can use AI that way. I don't have to constantly have a person who's doing that. That person that works for me can go do things that touch patients and families and staff members, things that matter, not, auditing or looking for information.
Amazing. And I think it matters a lot. What clicked to me is when Sandy was sharing about um, the limit the number of clicks, and also not to have to wonder what is the right question to ask, right? So especially in healthcare and also in nonprofits, the more you click, the less time you spend with your patients, with the people that you serve. So I think that's where AI can really help us and not really take away our jobs. And then also another thing is technology now not just connects employees among themselves, but what Amanda mentioned earlier is connect us with the files as well, like the search engines and things like that. So yeah, with 4 minutes left, so I want to zoom out for a moment. For other nonprofit leaders navigating AI and technology right now, a lot of them are watching us today. What advice would you give us about using technology to protect humanity, strengthen trust, scale impact, but at the same time without drifting from the organization's purpose? Sandra or Amanda, either of you can take this one.
I'll take it. So, I think that we have to build that trust. It only comes from miles on the road. I think people have to use a platform that they're comfortable with. I think they have to see the advantages in it, and not just be in the background. They have to see that, wow, this is really helping us. This is something that we're going to value. We're going to move forward. So, I do think it's experience based. And so we need to be really sure and careful that when we launch and when we move forward, that experience is a really good one. And I do think, if you're a nurse in the field and you've got to transfer a patient, you don't need 25 minutes of trying to find the right form. Okay. You don't need that. You don't need that experience, nor does the family need that. And so being able to just say to the AI, what's the standard of work for transferring patients, and then it becoming immediately available is going to be a huge win for our teams. We're very pressed. We're very busy. Our nurses are very busy. Days like today, as I mentioned in Maryland, there's all kinds of obstacles, right? Getting into people's homes is now taking another 30, 40 minutes because you've got to find a place to park and you've got to make sure you're in there. So whatever we can do to limit those administrative needs for our staff is going to ultimately give them more time to connect with each other, and to connect with their patients and families. So for us, that's the most important thing. Anything we can do to maximize that time, that human connection time, is going to be the most valuable for us.
Amazing. Thanks, Sandy. Amanda?
Absolutely. And to add on to that, just as Sandy said, it's hard to stay in control sometimes when you're switching into something new, especially with AI, because you need to be transparent. Just be transparent about how AI is being used so that not just leaders, but the whole organization can build that trust with that organization, because we just want to remember that at the core of using AI and technology is your mission and your values. So your mission and your value and your purpose, that's what's going to lead AI and technology to follow that purpose. And you want to keep that at the core without it pulling away from that human connection or that purpose. We want to use it to the best of its benefits to reduce that friction and to free up even more time for that human connection and for the impact that the organization makes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. Quick question before we wrap up. I saw here, does a program like WorkVivo connect with your OneDrive, SharePoint, or how does it access documents?
Amanda?
Yes. Absolutely. So you can integrate OneDrive with WorkVivo. You can also move all the other every single document to WorkVivo. It's a simple way of just connecting it. You can link it to your SharePoint if you would wanted to. You can link your personal profile to the SharePoint at the same time to access those documents, or you can really house all those documents onto WorkVivo itself. It's all available, and there's many different alternatives and options that you have when you want to have your documents onto WorkVivo, even if it's on a SharePoint drive.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda. We are at time, but Christopher will probably connect with you separately to address your question. And I saw Monica has a comment as well in there, so we'll get back to you. But for now, I wanted to quickly go through something. So many organizations really tell us they feel the tension between scaling communication and protecting human communication, but they don't really always know where the gaps are. So we created this quick human connection health check quiz. It's going to take you about 2 minutes, and once you complete it, it will immediately show you your connection profile. There's no good or bad result there. Each profile will just simply show you what your organization needs next. Now, once you complete the quiz, you see your profile, you'll also be able to download practical tips that you can action right away. So just by answering the quiz, you'll walk away with action items that you can take back with your team. And on top of that, because we are at Empower, there's something extra for sure. In that same file that you will download, you'll also see the biggest opportunity to move to the next profile. The profile is going to be, or the opportunity is going to be different depending on your profile. Those deeper engagements are typically paid, but for Empower, everyone who completes the quiz will be entered into a draw. We'll select the 3 winners to receive the engagement at no cost. So feel free to scan the QR code. We'll also send this over via follow-up email after today's event. And if today's session resonated with you, I would say that this is a super simple way to reflect on where you are today and what could meaningfully move connection forward next. So I want to thank Sandy and Amanda for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining us live at Empower 2026.
Thank you so much, Sandy, Joy, and Amanda. That was such a moving reminder that tech is the tool that let us handle the heavy lifting so we can actually free up more time for that deep emotional connection and, of course, for your mission, that it's what matters the most. Special thank you again, Sandy, for being so open with your thoughts and sharing today. Now we're moving to our fireside chat inside the AI Journey session. And to lead this, I'm handing it off to our very own Mihei An, VP of Marketing at ProServeIT. She's hosting the customer fireside chat with 2 fantastic leaders, Mike Prime from Right to Play and Frank Lombardo from March of Dimes. They're going to get real about the AI wins, their hurdles, and their vision for the future. Mihei, please take it away.
Thank you, Cassandra. Hello, everyone can hear me. We good? Audio good? Video
Yes.
good? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Yeah, Empower, as you heard from Cassandra in the beginning of the event, it is very, very close to our heart. It has been many years since 2020. We are proud to host this event. Yeah, there we go. There.
Okay, came back.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, so since 2020, we have been doing this. We love supporting nonprofit community. Before this session started, I had a pleasure of having casual chat with Frank and Mike. One of the many things that they shared with me during the chat is how proud and happy they are every day going to work because they can stand behind what their organization is standing for, the cause their organization supports. And ProServeIT, by extension, many of our customers are nonprofits and charities. And so by extension, we are so proud and happy to be in the business that we are in, to be able to support nonprofits who support our community. So without further ado, would love to start with introduction, please. Mike and Frank, I will have Mike to you. Please introduce yourself briefly, who you are, where you work, and a little bit about your day-to-day and where you are with your AI journey.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Mike Prime. I'm the Vice President of IT at Right to Play. Our mission is to protect, empower, and educate children through the power of play. We're in about 19 countries, mostly in Africa and the Middle East. And I've been in IT for 25 plus years. It's really great working at Right to Play because we get to make an impact in the world. AI, we started our AI journey about two years ago. We started by focusing on governance, and now we're in the implementation phase. So we're really looking at areas like our program impact. How can we use AI to monitor and evaluate the effects of our programs, and fundraising as well? Like, how can we use these tools to increase our fundraising revenue? So that's really two things that we're focusing on right now. But it's great to be here today to talk about AI. Hand over to Frank.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Frank Lombardo. I am 9 weeks into my new role at the Marcher Times Canada as VP of IT and Digital Innovation. It's an exciting time for me as I look to support that organization in all of what it does, really to build out the future for them. And I think that's what enticed me to the role, as it were, is that sort of building mentality. How are we going to build for the future? It's a rather large nonprofit, probably with a brand that most people recognize the name, but not everybody knows what we do. And there's some great things coming that will sort of re-announce ourselves to Canada. So stay tuned for that. But prior to, similar to you, Mike, got about 25 plus years in IT and technology, starting from the service desk many moons ago. And here to now lead organizations through these digital transformations that everybody is sort of required to do today. So I'll touch a little bit upon, I think today, what I've done in the past 10 years with my time at the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, because there's a lot of great work done there. And our journey also began about 2-3 years ago, as did the journey for many of you, I think, when pilots of the world started to get announced and could see what they could do. And I have a unique position in that I've done a lot, and I'm about to do it again, and I'm hopefully going to do better than I did last time. And we're all going to go through that sort of iterative thing in our career. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you for joining, both of you. Mike, I remember the very first time that you and I met virtually, we first met. That was about 2 years ago, I believe, maybe a little bit more than 2 years ago, when Copilot first became publicly available that organizations could purchase the licenses. Right to Play was one of the very first orgs to do that, and ProServeIT was one of the very first partners who was able to provide that access to organizations. So I interviewed you back then because you were the very first Canadian org who purchased when it became available at that moment. With AI, there are a lot of hesitations, at the same time, excitement. At some point, we have to start somewhere. So first question that I want to ask you, Mike, how did you arrive at that moment, that decision? Okay, we want to be one of the first, let's go and try.
Sure, I think it was a bit of FOMO if I look back on it. We had just heard about the technology being available. We had board members who were really excited and thought that we needed to use this tool, to improve our efficiency or productivity or our reach. And so we really were taking guidance from that. And some of my peers on the executive team were also suffering from FOMO, and they're like, we need to get this tool in here. And so I was like, hey, this is great. It's an exciting time to be alive. These are great, exciting new technologies. And so we decided that we're a Microsoft first shop, so let's go check Copilot out. We started small, small pilot, and we work with ProServeIT to get those tools in place. But I think that the motivation really was from fear of not getting this new technology in place. Reflecting back now, perhaps that was a little misplaced, but certainly it got us to where we are today. And I think we're in a better place. We've I think got past the FOMO. We know what we can and we can't do with AI now, at least today. I'm sure tomorrow it will change again. And so I think that, that's what kind of brought us to that situation. We didn't want to be the first. In fact, we thought everybody else was going to be doing the same thing. So just by luck, we were, early adopters, I guess.
I believe, based on what ProServeIT has seen so far, for sure, FOMO plays a role, but at the same time, without having concrete plan, taking one step at a time, whatever the small action that we can take to get started, that is as important as thinking about the plan. So those early adopters and early starters, I myself give a lot of applause because you need to start. And there's a lot of uncertainty around AI and life in general whenever life was certain, right? But embracing that uncertainty and being able to take one step at a time, I believe that is important. But that said, having a concrete plan is also important, as concrete as we can build and iterate from there. Frank, during our pre-event chat, we talked about having plan, right? Instead of spaghetti on the wall approach, you would like to see people and leaders thinking about more holistically, strategic way when it comes to AI. How did you start AI journey at your previous organization?
I think I want to qualify what I said earlier, what you said with it really depends. And I think that as IT leaders, we suffer a unique problem in that our A team, our other leaders want to do something new. They want to do something different. They recognize the value, and they may have that sort of FOMO when it comes to versus the other organizations. And then we have the people that we serve within the organization that are nervous about it and are going to take time to adapt. And as seasoned IT leaders, we should be able to recognize what fits the organization that we work for, because it's going to be different. If you're a smaller, more nimble organization, maybe you do one thing very well, you probably can get there a lot faster. When you're a larger organization that provides services to people, I mean, if we look at the CNIB and all the things that they do, from guide dogs to programs to social enterprise activities, I mean, that's a different animal altogether. And so I think that I don't think there's an answer to the approach. And I think that a lot of people did just sort of dive in and then, get out of the pool and say, oh, that was a little deeper and more turbulent than I thought it was going to be. And that's all okay. What I do think for all the leaders that are there with us today, that are here with us today, is that there are fundamentals that we have recognized over the years as we adopted personal computing and as we adopted the web and as we adopted the cloud and mobile. And the advantage we have today as we start to adopt AI is that we know what those fundamentals are. We didn't know what those fundamentals were early in the game when the web came out and we tripped over ourselves and we created security gaps and we invested in PCs and didn't necessarily see the return on that investment right away. We know the fundamentals. They're governance, training, risk. And if you evaluate those things independently of the technology, you're probably going to come up with a framework that works for your organization.
Thank you. And speaking of working with people inside of org, based on the risk tolerance and risk profile of our organization, we're all different, and culture is different. The profile of employees different. The type of work we do is different. When it comes to technology implementation, especially something like AI, people side of change, in addition to technology side of change, is quite important, right? So when you look back throughout the last 2 years or so of your AI journey, how did you approach that people side of things?
Yeah, good question. I think, it's another technology. AI is just another technology. And one of the most important things, and perhaps even more important with AI, is change management. So you have to follow the basics of change management with your staff. Otherwise, it's gonna destroy your culture. Will eat AI for breakfast if you don't do it right. And so you want to, one of the hallmarks of change management is communication. So you got to communicate often, you can communicate early. You also need to listen and hear what the concerns are of your staff. For example, this hadn't dawned on me, but a big thing that we heard from our staff was, hey, what about this, impact to the environment from these data centers running AI, like water use or energy use? We work in communities that have, water shortages. So should we really be using AI? So these are things that we hadn't considered in the beginning, that by listening to our staff, we took into account, and we've addressed that. We have guidelines on how you can reduce the consumption by prompt engineering. So that's one way of addressing it. But back to change management, you've got to do that communication. You got to do it often. We ran several sessions with all staff sessions. We provided training. There's a lot of great free available training on Microsoft Copilot out there. Provided that to our users. We have, in just 2 weeks, we have what we call a learning week, where we're going to have different sessions on different topics, and one of them is AI. So and even though we've been running with AI for 2 years, we really still communicate it, and we still provide the training, because training is the other part of building the trust in the tool. If you train the people how to use it, they use it, and they see that they can trust the results, or at least they know what they can take from the results, then they're going to be more able to accept that technology. I think that the other piece around AI is fear of losing your job. So everybody's like, is this thing going to take over my job? And so we, out of the gate, we're making it clear that this tool is here to not take over your job, but to empower you to do more with what the days you have and sort of the hours you have in the day. And so by freeing up the staff from doing mundane tasks, they're able to focus on more, mission-focused tasks. So, how can we make a bigger impact by not wasting time filling out, Excel spreadsheets, but actually working with the children? And so I think that was another element. Like, as long as they are hearing that this is not a tool that we're going to use to replace all our staff, then they kind of relax a bit. And then we provide training. Oh, now I know how to use the tool. Okay, maybe it's not so scary after all. And then again, keep communicating. So that's how we do it.
Thank you. FOBO, have you heard of that word?
FOBO?
Mm-hmm. Fear of being obsolete. So
that's a new one.
Yeah, FOMO is there for sure still with AI, and now FOBO, speaking of fear of losing job and all, it being obsolete, that is very core to the human need. It is attacking, right? The sense of, so it
might be of value in the future is, I think that's something we experience as we age, and now we're starting to experience it as we work. That's an interesting one.
Yes.
I have that every morning when I wake up.
And another thing that we talked about, Frank, during our pre-event chat was our young population coming out of universities and colleges, and now they think about their future, right, and job market and all. It is quite daunting for them with everything that is going on. But you made such a good point where, at least for now, where AI is, if you don't know the fundamentals of what it takes to do a job, AI will not be able to do the job without your input. So as long as you have your fundamentals and augment AI into your job to be more productive, to do more mission-driven work as opposed to the mean work that nobody wants to do. What is your take on that, especially with as a parent as well, with kids growing?
Yeah, these times of major transformative change are going to be difficult for a number of different groups, and we sort of touched on those groups. We have those that have been in our organizations for decades, maybe closer to retirement, and to go to them and say, you're going to now learn AI. That's a hard sell. Okay, and we have to be respectful, I think, of those groups. And those groups existed through all those other major transformations we talked about, right? So we got to leverage that. Then we have those in the middle, technically savvy, but still, they're probably not going to be the best at prompt engineering. They're not going to know how to. Have you ever seen the video of the school teacher that asks her class to tell her how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And she does exactly what they say, and she's got peanut butter all over her body because they don't know how to explain the next step. That middle group is probably going to need to get better at that, right? And then you have the coming groups, the AI natives, and I don't even think that would be my teenage kids. They're somewhere at the tail end of that middle group. I think that there's this up and coming group that will be AI native. They're going to talk differently. I suspect they're going to be creative. I suspect that they're going to be articulate in issuing descriptive commands, right? So those will be the conciseness, be a skill set.
My 7-year-old, she uses AI every day.
Really?
Yeah, she does.
Is that cool or scary? I don't even know.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Right. So I think that, and we touched upon the whole. For momentarily, I said, when was the last time you saw must-have proficiency in Microsoft Office? I mean, it's just going to become part of what's expected. But I think today we have to have this. You have to have some experience, exposure, proficiency in how to prompt an AI. I think that's a skill set we should start adding to our resumes just to start to see where the gaps are and understand where the skill sets are as we move through time and through this transformation.
What would be one specific example that you can share when it comes to that change management and adoption that you have been going through? Specific example that might help our audience think about, oh yeah, that I want to go back to my office and try after this event. Do you have any particular example?
Well, I kind of touched on them earlier. Different vehicles of communication and adjust them to your audience. So we work in communities in Africa with children, and so we have offices in several African nations, and so there is a digital divide. The headquarters in Toronto or in the UK, there's more digitally native people that know how to use the basic Microsoft products. And they're maybe a little easier to learn, or it's easier for them to learn how to use AI. So you can't have the same message to them as you have to your country office staff, who don't have the same level of familiarity or experience with the tool. So if you try to drop AI on that group, just saying, here's AI, here's some simple instructions, jump on a call and we'll show you how to do a prompt. It needs to be more step-by-step and more baby steps for that group versus for groups where they're already using Microsoft tools day in, day out. A lot of country offices, they're not in front of a computer all day. So expecting them or trying to train them how to use AI the same way that you're somebody in accounting or somebody in fundraising is going to be different.
The analogy I tend to go to when I think about these things from a leadership perspective is really about shepherding the transformation. And to me, change management in the context of shepherding a group of individuals, is to give them boundaries, right? A safe environment, right? An understanding of the rules, and then allowing them to fail forward. All of these things, giving them access to resources. But you have to provide that level of thought leadership that will give them a place to go. I've told people before, I'm not a fan of open map video games. Red Dead Redemption, if anybody on the call, you can do anything in this video game. I can't stand them because I just end up accidentally doing something and now everybody's chasing me and I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying this experience. Whereas I'm a big fan of Uncharted because it's an adventure and there's all sorts of things to explore, but you are guided to a place and a result. And I think that's what is fundamental to change management in this context, is we have an obligation to create the boundaries, to provide environments to feed or to learn or to, whatever you have to do. And then, go out there and do this and come back to us with your feedback. We surveyed a number of our staff, and this was an interesting exercise. How do you think AI can impact your job and make your job better? And if you have a cohort of 40 people in finance and 2 of them come back saying, I really think I could do something great here. Well, guess you just found your champions, right? And now you're going to help those people lead their group, because it can't all come from me, right? And it can't all come from the CEO. It has to come from within. And then you start to get organic growth. Then you start to get real world success and applicability. And so that's sort of the mindset that I have. And again, depends on the organization, depends on the complexity, depends on the culture. All things Mike said was correct. I mean, you could be swimming upstream and you don't want to as an IT leader. You kind of want to build the raft and have everybody paddle at the same time.
Yes. The champions, for sure, we have seen and continue to emphasize the role that they can play, because to your point, Frank, it cannot be just up, down, comms, and enforcement all the time. One thing that we at ProServeIT is doing is hosting, Jamie, whom you all heard from, hosting a weekly basis AI corner. So on Friday, all hands meeting, but it is specifically about AI use cases, because everyone, whether you want it or not, in some capacity, people are dabbling into AI, using it for something. So we want to discover and uncover those and give employees spotlight where they can share. So it becomes part of our culture. One thing that we have been trying that's quite interesting, exciting, and we can see people getting excited. What has been your CEO's role with all things AI?
I'm between CEOs. I have a new CEO, and I think that there's an acknowledgement that whatever we do as March of Dimes Canada moving forward, this needs to be the consideration. I think that's an opportunity for us. So any organization that's facing a lot of transformation, in your executive teams, I encourage you to ask yourselves a question. On this precipice, do you want to do things the old way that's sort of safe and maybe going to be outdated in another year or two? Or do you want to take things on the new way? I think our organization, amidst the transformation, is very open to doing things the new way, because here we are investing in the future. There's a lot of money and time and resources going in to the things we want to do to modernize. Let's get on that journey. And the CEO, I'm fortunate, the CEO and the rest of the executive team, very eager to explore some of these things, and they're looking at me, which is exciting because I'm invigorated by the possibilities.
Similar story. We changed CEOs last year, and so my previous CEO retired, and so her involvement around AI was minimal. She had other things that she was focusing on to finish off her time there. But the new CEO, much more about data, analytics, and so we've kind of taken a bit of a deeper dive into data and analytics, which we probably should have done at the start versus just jumping in to the pool. And so her role really has been one of making sure the organization understands the importance of gathering data quality, and having a central place for data, so a data warehouse. So we have a single source of truth, and then we can use AI, and the results we're going to get from AI are going to be better because we have better data in place. So she really has been championing that. We have to focus on the data. And it's not IT. IT is not. We shepherd the data in some way. We help with setting up the stores of the data, but ensuring the data is of high quality and is correct and is input in a proper way is the job of the individual business units. And so we're working now on stewardship with the individual business units on getting to a better place for their data input, and so that we can have this great data source that we can leverage with AI.
Data is something that we hear quite often these days, rightfully so, and encouraging to hear that many organizations and many leaders think about data with AI, because we have to think about data. So in addition to what Mike, you shared, I will come back to you. Frank, what have you experimented and done so far? Well, I guess you're 9 weeks in the previous role, when it comes to data, whether accessibility of data, cleanup of data, security of data with AI.
I think data governance, as exciting as it is a very exciting topic. There's no exaggeration in my voice whatsoever. It's something that, similar to things like disaster recovery and business continuity, we're so busy just trying to do the job, to do the mission, that sometimes these things fall by the wayside. And early on, I was very much like, we have to do data governance. We have to get this, process governance has to be right. Blah, blah, blah. And since then, going back about 2 years, I have been convinced by leaders in the industry that it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can't not have a clue. Okay, and AI can actually help you find your data, your data stores. I just did a wonderful webinar on Microsoft Purview, right? It can not only go into your Microsoft environment, but it can go into your other environments, help you classify that information, help you see the information. Most importantly, help you see and control. I mean, this is like DLP on AI, right? It's show you how people are using it, prevent the exfiltration of that data. And so, less concerned with getting it perfect, more concerned with having visibility and a bit of basic understanding. The other thing that will contribute to not having to get it perfect is having good privacy and data use policies and making sure you're reinforcing those things. I mean, it's not that much different than telling people that how to manage PHI, and reinforcing those things. You're just sitting there saying those all still apply in the context of artificial intelligence. And so you're not going to get it perfect. People are always going to create duplicates, and there's always going to be opportunities to take data out of systems. But do you actually know what you've got? Do you have visibility into what it is so that you can train people on how to use and access that properly? So I no longer think that you have to get it perfect, but I think you have to have something in place that is going to give you, let you sleep at night, knowing that people have the right access to the right things. Because if you have access to the wrong things, your AIs will have access to the wrong things, and you potentially could do something.
Thank you. I think there are some questions going. Cassandra, can you please help us? We have how much more time? Yeah, less than 30 minutes. We have more questions that I love to ask you, but I think questions from the audience more important, I believe. Do you see maybe 2-3 questions that we can start with?
Sure. We have Christopher asking, how are you using AI to analyze your data? What tools are you using? Like, what data sources are you giving AI to analyze, and how are you getting AI to analyze it?
Yeah, so I was thinking about Purview, which is a relatively recent sort of offering. And I don't know a ton about it yet, but I look to ProServeIT to help you with that kind of work. But you should be able to send the AIs out into your Microsoft Fabric and say, what's what, help you classify it. And the fact that, like I said, it can go into other systems. You can have it trusted systems that it can go and evaluate that data. I think that's going to be great. If for those of you that have archaic, dumping grounds of file systems, that's going to be a big challenge. you should be able to throw AI at that. And if that doesn't exist today, I would really encourage somebody to create it, because I think it's on the minds of a lot of IT leaders, is what's in that dumping ground that is my network drive. So no, to answer the question that I see on the screen, it's not Copilot, but there are tools out there to do that, and those tools are worth investing in, I think.
It is such cliche thing to say at this point, but data is currency, right? Which how things are going, data is currency.
And risk.
And risk, it is both. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, so I mean, when we talk about data, there's data in the database. That's one thing, but then the other data that's more prevalent is what's in SharePoint, what's in OneDrive, what's in our emails, and so the way that we analyze that in our organization is using Copilot, the premium version of it, so you has access to all those things, and it uses your already existing security access to know what you have access to and what you don't, and so you can point the work version of Copilot, and it will be able to go through all that information and gather it. The problem is if you have stale data there in files, it could give you incorrect information. So the other side is the data in the database, and so we have embarked on an exercise to create a Microsoft Fabric environment, and then do ETL to get data into that. So we have a single source of truth. We're halfway. I shouldn't say halfway. We are maybe a quarter of a way down that journey, and then we'll start to use AI tools that will point towards it. At this point, we don't. We just use it pointing towards the files you have access to. We do have tools within, for example, our CRM is Microsoft, so it has Copilot built in. So the fundraisers have access to that because that's what they use for fundraising, and that is just looking at the data that they've collected on our donors.
I mean, what a boring and daunting task that Copilot can do, or not, sorry, that AIs can do. And so if you want impact and you want to progress using this technology, I think that's an amazing use case to sit down and cut your teeth on. Because you're just analyzing stuff. You're not changing anything, right? You're not doing something entirely new. You're just saying, give me the information I don't have today so that I can start to make decisions. I think it's a good play.
Hope that answers the question. Yes.
Yes. Emily asked, comment, tech isn't the hard part. Trust, skills, and change fatigue are. What's worked for you to bring frontline staff along without overwhelming them?
Frontline staff, yeah, without overwhelming them.
They're so busy, frontline staff. You have to carve out the time. And I touched on this. Organizations are so busy with the mission. The story I like to tell people, father had a successful business, and one of the things that made him successful is that every August it got so hot that they shut down and they improved themselves, right? So this is about continuous improvement. You have to carve out time to, in your day, in your planning, especially given the pace at which things change today, to say during these periods of time, and we've seen this success in system maintenance, software development, you have to carve out time to improve on the things you've done in the past. And so I strongly encourage leaders to sit there and say, what is the time you will allocate for these individuals to get better at a certain thing? It doesn't have to be AI, it can be any part of their job. If you're not budgeting for that time, and data is currency, time is currency. Yeah. Time is the most limited currency we have, right? And people are not currency, but they are, what's the word, a resource, right? You have to invest in time and people to improve things, otherwise it's never going to happen. Carve out the time, make it part of the work plan, give them what they need to do those things. They won't do it on their own.
I think you need a culture of learning and development. And so that's going to be different, challenging for some organizations, others not so much. I'm lucky that I work in a organization that we're all about education. Sure, it's education of children, but we take education as one of our fundamental goals in day-to-day work. So we have things like a 2-week period where we have training sessions. So we encourage staff, and this comes from the executive team, CEO, all the way down to management, is encouraging taking that time to do training, and it's recognized as not just something you need to do, but it's important to advancing your role. And so I think because it's part of the culture of learning, that people are more willing to do it. It's not perfect, and it could be we could do more of it, but just having a buy-in across the board from all levels of management, I think makes it easier to accomplish. And so I think I would encourage other organizations, if learning and development is just something you put on your you put out there as something you should be doing, and you're not actually taking action on it, then you should start doing that. And it needs to come from the top, and it needs to be an understanding that you can free up the time to do learning and development. Because
that's the return on investment.
Yeah, because it's a huge return on investment.
That is time for time.
Yeah, if you don't take the time now, it's going to catch up with you later, right? And then your workforce now is completely outdated, and you're not competitive in whatever sector you might be in.
One step at a time, right? And one small thing, a few small things that we can have them try that can buy them time going forward, that their own success story will encourage them to try another thing and another thing. So instead of trying to boil the ocean, I'm sure Jamie went through the baseball analogy, base hit instead of home run. Let's aim for base hit to get on the base first, and from there, the little achievement, sense of achievement.
That's how the Jays did it last year.
Exactly.
Something close last year.
So close. Yes. And one thing that we have seen with our customers, speaking of bringing people along with us, creating moment. At the end, humans are motivated by feeling good, right? So create that moment of excitement we do provide the service of lunch and learn, for example. Yes, there are gazillion videos out there that people can go watch alone and learn, but like the sports game, when you watch it together with other people, always more fun.
Always more fun.
So yeah, learning together as a group, creating that moment of excitement together, learning moment together, that tend to show better outcome. More questions?
No more questions for the speakers, but if you, again, encouraging the audience, if you have any question, just drop them in the chat, and then we can go. But Mihi, you can keep going for now.
Thank you very much. So speaking of that small wins, have you heard from any employees inside of your organization a success story? Like, you know what, I tried this, it worked, I'm so excited, that type of story.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. It is really rewarding to see that when your staff realize, like, it's almost like a light bulb goes off, and wow, I can do so much with this that I had no idea. And so even simple things like, okay, I'm filling out a grant application for funding. I can use previous documents, throw them into Copilot, put the open-ended questions in there, and it will use previous answers to create new ones for the new grant. Now you want to validate that, obviously, but like that just saves you so much time. And then it's like, wow, okay. The other research is a great thing. It's kind of, instead of going to different sources and trying to find everything, Googling here, going to resources that you typically use, you can use AI to help with that and gather that information. Again, with research, it's really important that you validate, you follow the links, and you make sure that what it's reporting is accurate. Sometimes it hallucinates. But there's another example of like, oh wow, that just saved me so much time. And then the other one is I don't start from a blank page anymore. So when I can show somebody who usually just says, okay, let me open up Word, blank white page, and let me start typing, you're now starting from a draft. Like AI can do a pretty good first draft of whatever you're trying to do, and then you go in and modify it. So it's saved you so much time, starting from a blank page versus having a draft in front of you. So I've seen that a lot. Almost everybody, there were some exceptions, but almost everybody that I work with closely who I've introduced AI to in the workplace, or even outside of the workplace, when they see what they can do, it's exciting to see how to look in their face.
Yeah, I think starting to see, not starting to see, I think the lowest hanging fruit for the commercial AIs that are out there is productivity, for sure. Everybody started to realize how much we could do. I think what I found most inspiring, and this is just where I've been for the past over 10 years in the disability space, is what it can do from an accessibility perspective, and seeing people overcome barriers. And so those have been little moments of, hey, I couldn't access this easily before. And we talked about data, and we talked about Excel in our pre-chat, just from an accessibility perspective. And being in accessibility, what I've started to realize is that a lot of the quick wins are coming from people being able to do things that either because of the way they think or their abilities in interfacing with technology, those barriers are starting to come down. And I don't mean that in maybe the common sense of disability, because we all have different abilities and different what's the word that I'm looking for? It escapes me now. But our aptitudes, how we can go about something in the most successful way possible, AI is going to give us more of that. And so when I hear of people being able to access data, understand data better, access a system through a prompt instead of a keyboard and a mouse, which I also mentioned is like, might as well be on an abacus. And these are archaic tools that are, in my opinion, in my hope, actually are going to disappear in the coming decade and allow us to interface in a way that is bespoke to ourselves, not to what's pushed upon us. That's where I see the inspiring stuff happening. Yeah.
One of the events that we host many different events throughout the year. One of the recent ones that we hosted, one of the attendees asked the question of, so I have been observing people are a lot more open to use and experiment with AIs in their personal life versus professional life. There's a lot more resistance when it comes to use of AI at work. Why do you think that is? That was one of the questions that we got at the event. What is your take on that?
I think that it comes back to that fear of losing your job. And so I think that if you start using AI tools in the job, and then your boss might be saying, well, can you do more, or there's not enough work for you? I think there's that fear. So it comes back to fear. And in our personal lives, there's no fear. It's like you can use it for entertainment purposes. There's so many tools now, or you can use it just for gathering information. Like if I'm watching a show, I'll always want to, dawn on me that I'll want to know something that I don't know. So I'll use AI to answer that question, right? And it's easy, and it's not dangerous. There's no risk. Right? I'm not going to get in trouble for potentially having, telling my partner the wrong thing that came up in AI. Whereas at work, if you don't do the due diligence around AI, you could put yourself in a bad situation. We've all seen the news headlines where companies, employees have used AI and it potentially gave the wrong answer. So there is that element of fear of, is this going to be right? Is the answer I'm going to get going to be right? Can I trust it? So trust is a big thing. I don't think that the trust is quite there yet. And then there's back to that old fear of being obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, what are people doing personally with their AIs at the end of the day? Like I have these ingredients in my fridge, give me a recipe so I can cook something for my kids. A lot less risky than I want to do this analytics on my constituent database. Here's all the data you need, right? Trust is important. Microsoft has access and has indexed all of the data that we have. Salesforce has access to all of your donor data or all of your service member data. You've trusted it. And I think that people need to understand that piece. So again, going back to the shepherding analogy, here are the tools for these types of endeavors, right? Copilot, productivity, and I'm not saying this is the rule set, I'm saying this is examples. ChatGPT, general purpose, Agentforce, if you have a Salesforce shop, and it's tailored to that. Give them those boundaries. Give them, go to town on this because we know that your security access is correct. This is the trusted tool. Go ahead and do that. I think that's all that's really necessary, is to give them what they need to feel safe to do that. It took a long time for me to create a financial agent. I don't like dealing with spreadsheets. I think I've said that a few times in 2 hours that I'm not a spreadsheet fan. But I've come up with ways to create an agent that can help me run analytics on spend, on investment, on stuff like that. But I give it to it in such a way that it is anonymized and I have the right licenses so that I'm not training models. And hopefully the companies are being righteous about that. So we do have that a little bit less fear because the stuff we do personally is really within our own control. Whereas the stuff that we do professionally has impact on a lot of other people, potentially the company itself. And we have, as leadership, we have a responsibility to provide the guardrails, to provide the guidance, to provide the paths, and to provide the supports when things go wrong. Because things are going to go wrong. And if you blame the people, like we have cybersecurity programs. You do not approach a cybersecurity program by saying, if you get compromised, you're fired. I mean, nobody does that, because we've given them the supports and the education to learn. And then when something goes wrong, we recognize these are very sophisticated attacks. They're going to get worse with AI, right? So you have to think about it in the same sort of context. Here's your playground. Here's your rule set. Go give it a try. See what you can pull off.
What is, if you pick one thing that you are excited about AI this calendar year? We are at the end of January, so we have almost full year left. What is that thing?
One thing. Oh, that's a tough one. I think for us at Right to Play, it would be moving the ball forward on agents for our entire staff. Mm-hmm. So we talked a lot about productivity you can get within the Microsoft suite by using Copilot, and we've just started to dip our toe into the agent creation that we can roll it to all staff. I think that we're getting different levels of adoption. Headquarters maybe is using the AI more than our country offices, for example, because for various reasons that we talked about, digital divide, et cetera, and just the type of job they do. But I think that if we're able to create an agent that works really well, especially around the monitoring and evaluation component, I think it's going to be, I think the organization will start to see the tremendous value in what, the old manual way of doing data crunching can now be done with this agent. And we're just starting that journey using Copilot Studio to create these agents. So I think that will be maybe the most exciting thing to occur in 2026 would be to have a fully functional working agent that can help with our monitoring and evaluation.
Oh my gosh, that is exciting.
Fingers crossed.
I can't give you one. I'm going to give you 4.
Okay,
that's cheating.
Let's go.
Maybe it is, but I was invited here, so I'm going to be that guest. I'm excited. Okay, first and foremost, because it's now ingrained passion of mine, accessibility, breaking down barriers. AI in the next year, we're going to see more and more advancements on that. We've already seen a lot of that. We talked a little bit earlier about learning management systems, changing the way people learn. Content creation for learning is going to be amazing and fast, and I've seen this firsthand. I've seen it do its thing. Tutoring, the ability to have a tutor handy while you're going through the learning process and providing you learning, providing you the materials in a way that is best tuned to yourself. That's very exciting. I think that's going to enable workforces to do a lot more to stay in front. I'm particularly excited about, oh Jesus, there goes the fact that we're close to lunch and I'm starting to forget things. But it was after learning there were 2 more And now that I'm laughing at myself in my head. So I'll probably stop it at those two things. Those are really exciting over the next year, I think.
Yeah, the whole personalization at a scale that AI can help us do. Okay? That is.
Yeah. Oh, that was it for the philanthropy teams out there. Engagement.
Yeah.
Engagement, right? So knowing your customer to this level that you just can't do from an individualistic basis, the ability to segment better, and the ability to really target people. That's not a nice word to use, but really, meet people where they want to be met and give them the information they need to help make the decisions that are going to benefit your organization. So engagement is another big one.
Thank you so much. Yeah, see, I told you 1 hour will go back. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for teaching, Kevin.
Yeah. Hopefully it was helpful, relevant, and useful for all of you folks. Thank you for joining. And Cassandra, I'll pass the baton to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mihei, and thank you, Mike and Frank, for being so candid. It really helps to see how you're actually using AI within your organization. And I'm sure many joining us today felt inspired as well and empowered to use AI with the honest stories that you shared with us today. Now let's see some AI tools in action. So many of you, when you filled out the form to attend today's event, ask for learning more about Microsoft Copilot. So let's do that. Please welcome Kavya Shah. She is going to show us exactly how Copilot can take the busy work off your plate. Kavya, show us what you've got.
Hey, Cassandra, we're going to get into our Copilot 101 presentation today for Empower 2026. As Cass mentioned, I know a lot of you were looking forward to just learning a little bit more about Copilot and getting practical tips about how you can use it on a day-to-day basis. And this presentation is going to do just that. In fact, I just want to say that no matter what sort of nonprofit you work for, how big or small you are, what team you work in, there's something for all of you here today. So let's just dive right into it. So a quick agenda check for today. We're going to cover the difference between Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot, which I'll get into. And then we're going to actually just dive into our demos and see Copilot in action in some of the apps that all of us tend to use on a day-to-day basis. And if we have some time, we're going to get into some quick homework. And as a reminder, if you have any questions throughout the session as you follow along, definitely just put them in the chat and we'll get back to you. I'd love to introduce myself again. I'm Kavya and I work in the marketing team at ProServeIT, and I'm just ready to get started. So before we dive into the actual difference between Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot, some terminology check. Microsoft 365 Copilot is the paid version or the licensed version of Copilot, and just Copilot is the free version of Copilot. So taking a look at the first difference, Microsoft 365 Copilot, or the paid version, is embedded across your Microsoft 365 apps like Word, Outlook, Excel, and many more. What this actually means is that if I wanted to ask Copilot something while, say, I'm creating something in a Word doc, I don't actually have to leave that Word doc to go find Copilot on my browser and ask it that question. I can open it up right in my Word doc, which is something you'll see in action when we go through our demos. On the other hand, the free version of Copilot is something that you can only access through your browser or your device. And I'm sure a lot of you over here may have already tinkered around with the free version of Copilot, or some of you may even have the paid version, so you may already be clocking these differences. The second key difference that I want to bring your attention to is the fact that Microsoft 365 Copilot has access to your business content and context. And I know some of you have been dropping questions about this in the chat. What this actually means is that if you have the paid version of Copilot, if your team has it or your organization has it, it can actually access everything in your work ecosystem. So like your meetings, chats, files, documents, presentations, and everything. Whereas the free version of Copilot obviously cannot access that and can only use public data to give you any answers. So what this exactly means is that if, say, I had a meeting on Tuesday where we discussed a deadline, and then I forgot about it, I could actually ask Microsoft 365 Copilot to tell me when that deadline was, but I wouldn't be able to get the same answer from the free version of Copilot. However, I could ask the free version of Copilot why zebras have stripes. So if that makes sense, I hope you're following along. Now let's just really dive into how we can use Microsoft 365 Copilot in a practical way on a day-to-day basis. Before we actually get into the demos, we're going to look at Copilot Chat. So Copilot Chat is really just your home base. I'm sure all of you know what that UI looks like by now, but we're going to look at it anyway. Here's where you can brainstorm, refine, learn something new, generate an image, just about anything. Copilot in Word is a great place to do anything with content. And by anything, I mean, imagine if you have like a really long report, because I know as nonprofits, reports are something that all of you must be dealing with. But say you want to turn that into like a concise 5-bullet summary. Copilot in Word could help you do that. But say on the flip side, you wanted to take that 5-bullet summary and actually turn it into something much longer. Copilot in Word could help you do that as well. Next, we have Copilot and PowerPoint. It's just a really great way to take any content or any report or any document that you have and turn that into a visual ready presentation. So you don't actually have to sit and design the presentation yourself. Copilot will actually do it for you. Copilot in Teams is a great way to stay in the loop with any meetings that you've had within the organization. And I don't just mean meetings that you've missed when you're out of office, but even meetings where, say, for example, you were a part of the meeting, but on the 15th minute of that 1-hour meeting, there was something discussed and you forgot about it or you didn't take notes. Copilot in Teams is a great way to just look back and reference everything that happened, so you never miss a beat. And with that, let's look at Copilot Chat. So I already have my chat window open over here. If any of you want to follow along, it's copilot.microsoft.com. This is, for those of you who are completely new to this is what the chat window looks like. Here is where I can start a new chat. My history is here. And this is just the prompt box, which is standard with any AI tool. Now, something I want to bring your attention to is, do you see that Copilot is suggesting a couple of prompts to me over here? So because I have the licensed version of Copilot, it isn't just suggesting generic prompts to me, but it's actually grounding it in my work context. Because yes, my next meeting with Oneka is extremely important because that's someone I collaborate with often. Another thing that I want to bring your attention to when it comes to Copilot Chat is you'll notice these two tabs that say work and web. So the web tab, if I go to the web tab, if I ask anything to Copilot in the web tab, it'll give me answers based on public knowledge or just from the web. But if I go to my work tab and I ask Copilot any questions, it'll actually reference my work files and then pull out that answer and give it to me. And we'll actually see this in action right now. So for the sake of today, and for this wonderful nonprofit community that's here, say, for example, I work at a nonprofit, and at my nonprofit, we run an after-school STEM program for school-aged kids. And say this program is going really well, and say that there are some updates, some metrics that I need to give to 2 different stakeholders. Say I need to communicate these updates to a corporate donor, and I need to communicate it to a colleague of mine internally. Instead of writing them myself, I'm just going to get Copilot to help. And instead of copy pasting this entire flood of information into Copilot, what I'm going to do here and look closely is I'm going to hit the / icon on my keybar, and I'm going to tag the file that I want Copilot to work off of. So that / button or icon that you saw, that basically functions similar to the @ button on social media, where you can tag people, but with the / button on Copilot, you can tag any files that you want Copilot to use. So using my stakeholder update, I'm going to ask Copilot to create a 120-word update for a corporate donor. Maybe I want it to be professional and grateful, like we're grateful that this corporate donor is on board. And then a colleague. And this I want to keep rather warm, more friendly, more casual. Copilot do its magic. I know that as nonprofits, regardless of the department or the team that you're in, communications is probably something that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So Copilot is just a great way to speed that process up, especially for like tinier updates or things that you're working on. So as you can see, Copilot has already generated two sorts of updates for me. One is a corporate donor update, and as you can see, the language is exactly how I wanted it to be, and very different from the language that it gave me for the colleague update. The colleague updates are like, hey, quick update on the STEM after school program, but the corporate donor update is a lot more professional, where it's like, thank you for your continued support. Of course, you can make any changes you want to this, but this is just a great way to communicate to different stakeholders and speed that whole process up. The second thing that I want to show you, and this is actually one of my personal favorite ways to use Copilot, is as a sounding board. So say, for example, this particular donor of mine that I want to give this update to is someone that's a stickler for details. Like they're always looking for gaps in things that we report to them or show to them. I'm just going to ask Copilot to help me find those gaps. So I'm going to say, for the donor update, point out 5 gaps that they may flag. Give me a quick one-line fix for each. I really like Copilot to just go over things that I've created because it doesn't just help me create content or create responses, but it actually has that eagle eye to go over things that I have already created and point out gaps that I may just forget. So as Copilot is doing its magic, I'm sure you're probably thinking of different ways in which you could use Copilot as a sounding board or almost like a brainstorming buddy. Like it's a great devil's advocate. Like for example, just the other day, I wanted to create a presentation about Empower. And I asked Copilot to go over the structure that I created for the presentation, and I asked it to give me any missing pieces. We're just going to let Copilot do its thing for a bit. As Copilot is doing its thing, just wanted to point out that if you're using the free version of Copilot, you could achieve similar results. All you'd have to do is, of course, go back to your document, copy paste what you have, and then put it into Copilot and then put in the prompt that you want. Or you could even just attach the document using the plus symbol over here. And while Copilot is taking a little longer than usual, there's another thing that I want to point out about the interface, which is, do you see on the top right, there's a tiny little guy here, this green shield. So this is basically indicating to me and to all of you that our data is protected because it has enterprise data protection on. So that means no one but me can really access this. So here we have it, 5 gaps that a donor may flag with quick one-line fixes. So that's something about budget clarity, impact benchmarks, risk and mitigation, future needs and calls to action. Of course, you could ask it a lot more. But yeah, this is a great way to use Copilot in chat for a day-to-day basis. Now let's move on to Copilot in Word. So say, for example, this after-school STEM program that I am running is going so well that I actually need new volunteers for it. And this is the information that we typically have for volunteers, but it's far too lengthy and wordy to read. And say I want to look for volunteers and I want to put the word out on LinkedIn and I want to create a job description for it. So within Copilot in Word, I could actually just do that without going back to my browser. So I put my cursor here, and if you can see, there's this tiny pen with like sparkles. So I click on the pen, and that's basically Copilot. And I'd say, create a LinkedIn ready job description using this and tailor it to college students. Because say, for example, we want to attract college students to these volunteer positions. Anyway, they often have internships that they may need to do, and this volunteer opportunity may be great. And that was super quick. So as you can see, Copilot has created a LinkedIn ready job description for me over here. I can choose to tweak it. I can choose to keep it. I can ask Copilot to regenerate one if I'm not happy with it. So of course, I'm choosing to keep it. So you can literally just copy paste this and put it onto LinkedIn if you'd like, or you can actually add any more details by yourself or with Copilot's help as well. Another thing that I want to show you about Copilot in Word, like I mentioned before, that Copilot lives in your Microsoft 365 apps, is do you see this Copilot symbol on the top right here? So if I were to click that, Copilot would actually just open up for me in my Word document. I don't really have to go back to my browser and do anything. Like I can ask Copilot questions over here as well. And that's really just the benefit of having the license, because it saves a lot more time than you'd actually think. A final thing that I want to show you about Copilot in Word is that, do you see this tiny summary over here on top? So this is something that Copilot is generating. It's a summary of the document that I have open right now. So if I want to quickly skim the document, Copilot just helps with this summary. And if I want the summary to be longer, if I want it to be shorter, I can actually just change that for myself. And there's a shorter summary. Copilot also provides a couple of insights based on the information in your document. So here you can see a couple of key numbers based on the information, like the age group that we serve, the amount of sessions that we have weekly, and it even has a suggested Q&A, which is great. Especially imagine from a website content perspective, you could literally just take this Q&A, tweak it, tailor it, and have it right there. So that's Copilot in Word. I hope you're following along, and if you have any questions, I hope you're putting them in the chat. Now we're going to move on to Copilot in PowerPoint. And we're going to keep with our after-school STEM program. So say, for example, our after-school STEM program is doing so well. It has the donor is happy with the updates. We've got new volunteers. Now we're actually looking for a new school to partner with us for this STEM program. And say that to pitch to this school, we don't want to just give them this document that we typically have for school partners. We want to wow them a little bit. So we want to create a really nice looking presentation. So I've just opened this document up to show you like what information lives in this document. But if I wanted Copilot to help me actually create a presentation out of this document, I would open PowerPoint. So I already have PowerPoint open on my browser over here. And I've just opened up like a new presentation. And over here, do you see these tiny sparkles, these tiny stars on top? So I'd click those stars and I'd say create a new presentation. And that will essentially open up this dialog box for me and this prompt box for me where it's creating a presentation with Copilot. So I'd say create a neat and easy to skim presentation. Give me speaker notes for each slide. And of course, now that I've given it my prompt, I need to tell it which file I'm talking about. So I could use the / button, or I could click on reference files. And then we go to the school pitch document that I just showed you. And then I'm just going to input this command. And what Copilot is doing right now is that it's actually reading through my document and it's creating an outline, as you can see, for my presentation along with what each slide is going to say. Now that it's created this outline, I could even add my own sections over here, or I could delete a section as well. Like you could completely control the outcome of this. So now that I have what I want in place in terms of content, maybe I want to pick from one of these themes. So let's say I want to pick a fun theme like Candy Lane. So I'd pick that theme and I just go ahead with the presentation. And just in the interest of time, I just want to show you what the final outcome would look like. So this is exactly what the presentation would look like after it would have been generated. Trust me, I used the exact same prompt, and as you can see, I used the exact same theme as well. So this is Copilot creating the presentation. I haven't touched it at all yet, and it has the agenda in place. It has everything in place. And if I click on the notes section over here, there are two things that you'll be able to see. You'll be able to see that this slide, it'll tell you where it has picked up this information from, which file of yours exactly. And it tells you the slide name, and of course, it has images that are AI generated. But you'll also notice that there are speaker notes over here. So I could literally just take this and run with it. Or of course, I could add my own flavor to it. When I'm talking about this presentation, I could make any changes that I want. But yeah, Copilot in PowerPoint, just quick way to get a presentation ready, especially when you're not finicky about the design and you don't want like extreme control over it. You could, of course, change a lot of things, but it just helps you get like a really quick head start. And now for a final demo, I want to pull up Copilot in Teams. So this is Copilot in Teams, and this is my actual Teams app. As you can see, I'm in the Meet section of Teams. If you can't find the Meet section of Teams, then you basically just have to click on View More Apps and look for Meet, and then it would show up. So like I mentioned, Copilot in Teams is a great way to just stay in the loop with things that you've missed, but maybe you want to stay in the loop in your own way. So this is an actual meeting that my team had about just redesigning some stuff in our website. So I'm going to click on View Recap over here, open up the meeting for me. And as you can see, there's already an AI summary that's generated, and this has been generated by Copilot. So there are a number of tasks and meeting notes. But maybe I don't want to spend this much time reading all of it. Maybe I want a custom summary. So I'm going to click on Custom Summary. What Custom Summary allows you to do is that for any meeting that you've been a part of, you can use Copilot to generate a summary of the meeting in the way that you'd like for it to be told to you. And I can actually create that template by clicking on Create Template, and I tell Copilot, like, create a summary format for me where it's all about the action items and the deadlines and the task owners. So you can just type in what you want. And I just want to show you I've already created one. So this is my action item summary. So I just tell Copilot to focus on action points, key dates, deadlines, and task owners, because I just want to know how I need to plan moving forward. I don't need to get into the nitty-gritties of what was discussed. So I just click on the action item summary, and as you can see, Copilot is already generating my summary. There are also two other summaries that are already inbuilt, that are pre-made. So that's a speaker summary and there's an executive report. That's something that you could experiment with at any point in time. But here you can see the action summary, and it's so concise. Like, it's telling me exactly what needs to be done and who is doing it. It's even telling me next steps, key dates, and deadlines, and that's basically all I want to know. And that's Copilot in Teams. Just a quick pro tip, which is that, say, for example, you don't even want to read the summary that Copilot gives you. Like, you want updates, but like you want it in an audio format. So do you see this little audio recap button here? If you were to hit the audio recap button, Copilot would actually take all the updates and create it into almost like a podcast format that you could listen to. So you could actually second screen the update, because you could be listening to your update and you could be doing something else. The thing with reading updates is that you're just bound to the screen and you're reading it. But with an audio recap, you'd actually be able to listen to it. And you could actually choose the style in which you want the recap to be generated. So whether it's casual, whether it's more like a newscast style, or whether it's an executive style. And that's basically what we can achieve with Copilot on a day-to-day basis in some of the apps that all of us use so much. I hope that that has been helpful, and I hope that your brains are turning right now, thinking of different ways in which you could use this. If there are hacks that you know yourself, then definitely just drop them in the chat, or if anything resonated with you, then feel free to call that out. And now, as homework, whether you have the free version of Copilot or whether you're using the paid version of Copilot, you can try these prompts out. So Copilot in Outlook is the place where you could essentially use Copilot to create a quick reply to something like an email, or even keep up with an entire long email thread, or even give you summaries about how your email week has been going. So if you ask Copilot to tell you about all your emails for the week, it would actually list the most important emails down in terms of priority. So the prompt that I'm suggesting for you to try is that just open up any email that you have. And if you have the paid version, then within Outlook, you can ask Copilot to draft a reply for you. And you can make it as specific as possible. Like you can dictate the tone of voice, you can dictate any key details you want it to add. If you have the free version, and if you're comfortable with it, then take the email that you have, put it into your Copilot browser, and try the same prompt. Copilot in Excel is something that I think a lot of us could benefit from, especially those of us who deal a lot in data. And it's not just if you're in a team that's data heavy. Like, for example, even if you're in the marketing team and you want to analyze trends in website visits or form submissions or anything like that, imagine you have a Copilot in Excel. You have an Excel sheet open, you could actually ask Copilot in Excel to look at that sheet and explain any sort of trends, and do a data analysis and give you like the top 3 insights that it can gather. And you can do that in a visual format, like Copilot will literally just paste the visual for you. So you could definitely do that with Copilot in Excel. If you don't have it, then you may have to attach your Excel sheet to Copilot again, if you're comfortable sharing that information with the free version of Copilot. And then you paste the same prompt, and then you could see the magic happen. So Copilot is available in a lot more apps. So you could experiment with that as well. One thing that I want to say as we round this presentation up is that Copilot is a great way to get that first, second, third, or even 10th draft out of the way. But those final finishing touches should always come from you. Copilot is here to help you out, but the unique perspective that you add is extremely integral, and I'm sure it's extremely integral in taking your missions forward as well. So Copilot is just here to give you that little boost, but the final stretch is yours to conquer. So what's next? This presentation resonated with you, or if you're rolling out Copilot in your team or your organization, we're actually here to help you with Copilot adoption and just kind of like wrapping your head around how you can champion Copilot within your organization in the best way possible with our experts. And with that, I would like to conclude my Copilot 101 presentation for the day. I hope all of us learned something here today, and it has been a pleasure talking to all of you. And I'm passing it back to you, Cassandra.
Thank you, Kavya. That was amazing. It's incredible and personally mind-blowing, the capabilities that Copilot has. And most importantly, that it's pretty much embedded in all the apps that we use every single day. It's in Teams, it's in browser, it's in Word, it's in PowerPoint, Excel. It's just amazing. For our final session, we are leveling up from individual help to organizational power. Catherine is here for Agents 101. She's going to show you how AI agents can actually automate entire workflows so your team can work smarter and not harder. Catherine, over to you.
Thanks, Cassandra. And hi, everyone. Welcome to Agents One-on-One, Automating Complex Workflows. I'm super excited to be with you here as part of Empower 2026. We do recognize that nonprofits are stretched thin, teams wear multiple hats, admin work piles up, and there's never enough time for what truly matters, which are building relationships, storytelling, and delivering impact. AI power automation is one of the most meaningful ways to give time back to your people. Today, we're going to explore AI agents, what they are, why they matter, and how we can remove that repetitive, manual, time-consuming tasks from your day. So my name is Catherine Kwan, and I am on the marketing team here at ProServeIT. We do work very closely with organizations adopting Microsoft Copilot and AI, and I've seen nonprofits create real improvements, not through big, expensive transformations, but through small, thoughtful automations that quickly save hours every single week. So today, my goal is super simple. I want to help you understand what agents are, why they are a natural next step beyond Copilot, and how you can start using them even if you're not technical. And before we really get into agents, let's start with Copilot building on Kavia's session. So what we saw is that Copilot can help with writing, summarizing, and research. But what many people don't realize is that Copilot is actually the gateway into the world of enterprise automation. I want you to think of Copilot as the interface, and behind that interface, agents are the specialists. If Copilot is your all-purpose assistant, agents are the teammates who know how to run a meeting, manage a project, draft a plan, or take action on your behalf. Copilot opens that door, agents walk through it, and get the work done. Take a look at the number on this screen. The world is moving incredibly fast, and IDC projects that more than 1.3 billion agents are going to be used in 2028. That tells us something really important. Agents aren't just a trend, they are becoming the new backbone of digital work. For nonprofits, this is especially powerful because agents can automate donor follow-up. It can manage volunteer coordination, create reports, keep programs on track, run events, draft communications, and even handle countless admin tasks that you shouldn't be doing manually, all without needing to add headcount. Now, you might be asking, what exactly is an agent? I would like to say that agents are specialized AI tools that focus on a specific process or task. Think of them as apps of the AI era, with Copilot as the interface. If Copilot helps with anything, agents help with a specific thing really well. A really good analogy that I like to use is you have your phone, and on your phone, you have a bunch of different apps that serve its unique purpose. That's very similar to Copilot. Copilot is that phone, and all the agents are those specific apps within your phone. Let's take a look at the types of agents because it comes in different levels depending on what you need. Some agents simply just retrieve information. Some perform tasks when you ask them to, and some are completely fully autonomous. They can plan, make decisions, and even orchestrate steps, and escalate when necessary. The best part is what you can build many of these agents without even needing to write a single line of code. So again, just to let everyone know, agents do vary in levels of complexity and the capabilities, but it all depends on your need. Here is that full spectrum of how agents are created with Microsoft. So end users, they can build simple declarative agents with natural language with no code needed in Agent Builder. We're actually going to see this today during the demo. And then as we start to get more advanced agents, this is where makers can build more sophisticated agents using Copilot Studio, or developers can even build fully custom agents using Azure AI and even the Microsoft 365 agents. So for nonprofits, this flexibility means you don't need a technical team to even get started. You can begin with something small, like automating weekly donor emails, and then you can start scaling up as your needs evolve. Now, here is a part that I love. You don't need to start from nothing because Microsoft does provide pre-built agents in the agent store when you do have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, and they're just ready for you to use today. A few examples that might make a big difference. You could have a project manager agent, which can manage your task, updates, and timelines. You have facilitator agents where they can even run your meetings and send you recaps. Even a researcher agent, which gather insights for grants, programs, or donor strategy. And these agents alone can save hours each week, especially for teams who are doing everything manually. Let's go ahead and actually start exploring some agents. So in a moment, I am going to show you examples of what some of those agents can actually do. As I walk through them, I want you to start thinking about your own organization. Think about which administrative tasks take up too much time, which processes feel super repetitive, which workflows breaks down when someone is away. Agents can step in and fill those gaps. So for today, we're going to look at researcher agent, facilitator agent, work agent mode, word agent mode, and agent builder. So with researcher, this agent can help you find sources, summarize content, and pull insights from your documents and the web. Perfect for grant research, annual report prep, and even program evaluation. The facilitator agent, this is what will guide your meetings, creates your agendas, tracks decisions, and even send next steps. This is great for board meetings, volunteer committees, or even staff check-ins. Next, we have Word agent mode. This will help rewrite, restructure, and even polish your documents instantly. So think of your donor letters, your proposals, and maybe even some newsletters. And finally, agent builder, we're actually going to go ahead and build an agent together. So with this, it's a no-code tool that lets anyone create a simple agent based on instructions, your files, and even the web. If you can describe a type of workflow, I'm sure you can build an agent. All right, so let's just go ahead and get right into the demo. I'm going to have to reshare my screen, so bear with me. Perfect. Okay, so right now we are looking at Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. This is exactly what Kavya was showing us in the previous session. And what we didn't actually cover in that session are agents. So if you see in the left-hand side in the navigation panel, you have agents right here. I will just orient ourselves. This is what I was mentioning about the agent store and how Microsoft has built pre-built agents for us to use. This is where you can find the researcher, prompt coach, even analyst coach. I believe someone in the chat mentioned about it. This is exactly where you would find those pre-built agents. What we're going to look at right now is the researcher agent, which you see up here that I am hovering on. Like I said, the researcher agent, it's so great in finding information with your documents, plus also the web. Let me actually bring up one of the past ones that I did yesterday so I could show in this demo. And I'm going to read through this prompt that I use with the researcher agent, and you'll see how it is a bit different than your normal Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So with this prompt, as you can see, I said, research and synthesize the latest trends in volunteer recruitment and retention for nonprofits. Use a mix of sources, including recent web articles, industry reports, academic research, and nonprofit sector publications. Summarize what currently motivates volunteers and most common friction points in a volunteer journey, and the proven strategies organizations use to keep volunteers consistently engaged. Present the findings in a clear and well-structured report with headings, key takeaways, bullet points, and supporting examples or statistics when available. Include a brief list of sources consulted. So as you can see, that's a pretty big prompt, but I'm trying to give as much context as I can to this researcher agent. When it came back to me, it said, I got it. This is what you want me to focus on, which is, currently motivating, what is motivating volunteers? What are the friction points, proven strategies? But then it's asking me deeper questions because it wants to completely understand exactly what it needs to look for. So before I begin, I want to make sure I fully understand your needs. Are we focused on a specific region or country? Are you interested in particular types of nonprofits? Do you want the report to include any visual elements? And then it was able to tell me, choose your report length. Do you want it to be 1 to 5 pages or 5 pages plus? So really quick, I just said, let's look at global trends. Let's look at charitable nonprofits, and yes, include visuals because I am a very visual person. Here we have researcher now doing its research. This typical agent will take quite some time to actually give you a full answer. It could take up to 20 to 30 minutes to give you this full report because it's not just going to give you an answer right away. It needs to do its deep research and then generate that report. So as you can see, it will tell you exactly what it's looking for as it's doing its research. Beginning research, reviewing the search results, looking at organization volunteer retention. And as you can see, it did a very deep search of what exactly I was looking for. Remember, I told this researcher to look at mixed sources of the web, of any publications out there. It's looking at now the friction points. And again, I could go on and on, but of course, I'm not going to read every single thing that researcher gave us. And then this is the output that it's giving us. Latest trends in volunteering recruitment for global nonprofits in 2025. It does a nice way of structuring this report, but as you can see, it has, what motivates us. Here are some visuals that it gave us, the friction, and as you can see, it's a very, very comprehensive and long report of exactly what I'm researching for. And imagine trying to find all this information through the web. Researcher can now give us a really good, concise report of exactly what I'm looking for. One of the best parts of this is all the sources are here. I did ask researcher to give me those resources, but you'll always find the resources here and the citations where I can go in and find more about this information. Pretty cool stuff. So that is really researcher. Just looking if there's any questions in the chat. Is there a nonprofit discount for Copilot Studio? I will need to double check that. I know there are some discounts for Copilot licenses. For Copilot Studio, I will definitely need to check. And then you may already have mentioned this, but you cannot use this agent without a Copilot client license. I just verified this. Yes, you have to have the Microsoft 365 license to be able to use Researcher. So that is one of the benefits is when you do have a license with Copilot, you get access to all these agents with your license. Will we have the links to the resources on the reports? Yes, the links are all here in the sources when you use Researcher. So these are the citations where you can now, see where this information is coming from and go and search for the web. You guys are asking me lots of questions, which is awesome. Can we have the agent do daily tasks? Let's say set it up to do this every morning and set a little briefing for you on your calendar. Yes, there's actually ways where you can automate these prompts. Let me actually just check if you can do this in Researcher. I know you can. So in Researcher, you can't, but you can do it in chat where you schedule your prompts to happen every day or every week. So there is a way for you to automate this, but specifically not sure about agents, specifically Researcher. Okay. let's look at facilitator agent. So here you are looking at a past Teams meeting where we turned on facilitator agent. This is an agent that you can use directly in Teams. And I like to think of it like a fly on the wall or someone that's just moderating the meeting. So as you can see, when we turned it on, facilitator said, "Hi, everyone, I'm here to help with the meeting. This is the agenda that we had on the meeting invite. And, this is what we need to cover." So that was right at the start of the meeting. What's really cool about facilitator is that it actually has a whole bar during your meeting. And as the meeting is progressing, the bar is going to start filling up until the end of the meeting. At 11:05, as we were discussing during the meeting, it actually saw what we were talking about or heard what we were talking about and said, this is what the goal of the meeting is going to be like. We're going to look at some end-to-end booking processes, HubSpot, and Dynamics. We want to clarify some process steps. And then it says, I'm actually going to add some notes shortly, so just keep an eye out. At the halfway mark, it sends another chat and said, hey, we're at the halfway. The group is actively working through, looking at these processes. This is exactly what we covered so far, but just a reminder that we need to still cover these couple of things. So it kind of gives you a little nudge saying, hey, don't forget about these topics that you wanted to cover too. And again, gentle little nudge, we only have 15 minutes left. This is what you still need to cover. Roughly 10 minutes remained in the discussion of this track. You have the end-to-end processes for leading and booking and clarified questions that you still need to answer. So as you can see, it's really keeping meetings on track, and you don't really need to think of taking notes right away and catching all the little details. Facilitator agent does a really, really great job at it right within Teams. One of my favorite parts about facilitator agent is that it's going to create those notes. So at the end of the meeting, you see the decisions that we made, the open questions, what was this agenda, and then here are the meeting notes within this agent. So really, really comprehensive and a lot of detail into this. One of the best things that it does too is that it has those follow-up tasks on what we should be doing with, after the meeting, right? So then we can start assigning these to our colleagues as well. So really great way to keep us organized after meetings. Cool. Just want to check. There are many Copilot licenses in this browser and search Copilot. Is this the browser or search Copilot? Oh, sorry. This right now is actually just my Teams app. But what we were looking at was the browser version of Copilot, but you still have access to Copilot in different apps. As you can see, I have Copilot up here in the Microsoft Teams app. Kavya showed there's, Copilot within the apps of Word and PowerPoint, but the chat right now we're on browser, but there are other ways where you can find Copilot, like as you see here in my Teams. I can just jump into chat right within my Teams app, and you could do that with Outlook too. And just remember that Copilot is here because I do have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. Okay, so that was facilitator agent. The next one I actually want to show is really, really interesting, which is called agent mode. This is actually going to be released very soon. I think it's rolling out in February 2026. I have access to it because we are on our Frontier program, so we get to, see the beta versions of it, but I'm excited to show you all on what Microsoft has been working with in Copilot. And so what I just did is I opened up a blank template from Word, and then I opened up Copilot right here. What I'm going to do is when I click this little symbol, you see agent mode. With agent mode, you can now ask Copilot to directly edit the document that you are on. So this is brand new that Microsoft is releasing, and it's really, really awesome. And let me show you what we're going to do. So I'm asking Copilot, update this template and write a newsletter for all employees about what happened during our last AI Corner series meeting. I believe Jamie mentioned it, and also Mihai mentioned it, how we run weekly or bi-weekly AI Corner series, which is like updating everyone on what's going on internally with AI. And what I'm going to do is now reference one of those meetings. Let me just open this up so you have a better view. And then we're going to add some content. And for some reason, it is not working. Here we go. Okay, so I added some content, and I'm just going to search up AI Corner series, and then I can search up, which one I want to update on, and we're just going to hit generate. So what's really cool about this is that it's going to now look at that meeting and take the transcript and update this Word document with the summaries. Okay, as it's thinking, hopefully it doesn't take too long. But as you can see, it is already now updating the template. What's really cool is that it does highlight on what it is changing. And at the end, you'll be able to confirm all the changes. And then you can now just start editing or changing some things on what you want the Word document to look at. So it does save a ton of time, and it's really, really cool. But you'll see it's still working through what it wants to add, even next upcoming sessions. But yeah, pretty cool things. It is going to also be available in PowerPoint and Excel agent mode. So this is just one of the many things that Microsoft has been releasing. So as you can see, it said your newsletter template has been updated. This is what I've changed. I added some quotes, the summary, highlights, even the next session, and then who to contact. You can now, go through the changes and what the agent mode has added. And then let's just say we keep all, it's going to update that. And I, of course, can go ahead and edit this. I could even, go ahead and use Copilot to edit it. So it's very, very cool and what you can do with agent mode. Be sure your IT department has enabled Copilot for Teams. Otherwise, it will not be available. Just went through this yesterday. Thank you, Randy, for your comment. Okay, so that's agent mode. The last demo, what I'm going to show you, is actually now building an agent with Agent Builder in Microsoft 365 Copilot. So as you saw, we were looking at that agent tab navigation pane right here. You'll see you can build a new agent. And this is where you can create an agent to find information through SharePoint or OneDrive or even the web. So, and you would need to be very specific on the type of agent that you would want to create. What I'm actually going to do is this is actually how the interface looks like. You would go through, adding the details, what it's about, the instructions, where to find the knowledge, and then you can test out your agent here. But what I will do is actually show you one that I have already created. And the purpose of this agent was being on the marketing team. We create a lot of content, and the different types of tones and languages we want to keep consistent. So we created an agent for making sure that the message is aligned with ProServeIT's tone of voice and even speaking to the right audience. So this is, the name of the agent, the description, right? Use this agent when you need to write, edit, or brainstorm any marketing or communication content for ProServeIT. We want it to be the tone, speak directly to the right audience, and then align with our brand services and positioning. In the instructions, this is where you'll actually see I go very much in depth in how I want this agent to work. So this is the purpose, right? I want to make sure everything's aligned with marketing internal communication. And then these are your core responsibilities for content alignment. So when you write or review anything, make sure it represents our offerings, manage IT services, AI consulting. And then I'm even going into more depth of, we want you to be very consistent with their tone. We want you to help us brainstorm campaign ideas. Even, these are the personas that we want to look at. Now I'm giving it more guidance on even the tone of voice, right? So make sure it's authentic, empathetic, understanding, professional. And here are some rules. Now I'm actually telling this agent, can you actually avoid M dashes? I don't want you to use these types of words. Always make sure you link the messaging to these outcomes. So again, more rules that we added, even phrases that we don't want it to have. And then you can actually give the agent examples as well. So let's look at some high performing examples that are CEO focused, CFO, and then even BTH marketing company. So those are the instructions, and there is a website on Microsoft that gives you a nice layout on how it actually can format the instructions for it to better work. And you can always go back to change, the instructions as you start using the agent. For knowledge, this is where you can actually tell the agent, use these certain files. I want you to look at the web too, or these specific sources. I even gave it a PowerPoint deck as well. Let's, go ahead and make sure this agent can even create documents, charts, and code, and even images. And then your suggested prompts are actually, just easy prompts here that you'll see here. So just a click, you'll have this full prompt for you. So that's exactly how you build an agent. And you can actually test it out here as you're building it. What I will do is actually show you one that I already tried out so you can see how it looks like. So with this agent, I just simply ask who is the target audience, and it will give out that information, which is very accurate, and it is respecting the instructions that I gave it. I went a bit deeper and I said, based on this knowledge, I actually want you to compare 2 of our blogs, and I want you to tell me which one is more aligned to ProServeIT's tone of voice. Here we have blog 1. It's pretty good. The alignment, right? It's inspiring, authentic. Blog 2 is actually, it has a moderate alignment, so it is limited. It misses the strategic context as well. So the verdict was blog 1 was actually more aligned with ProServeIT's tone with blog 2, and it was actually correct because blog 2 we posted way back when, and that tone of voice wasn't really developed yet. And then blog 1 was more recent, blog 2 was older, so pretty good. And with that is pretty much it with my demo. I hope you learned something really well. I'm just gonna go ahead and go back to my presentation and just finish it up. But I hope you learned something and that you're all excited about agents as much as I am. And let me just quickly look at the chat to see if there's any questions. Can Agent Builder use and connect with APIs to connect to publicly available data repositories and applications? I think it can connect to APIs. Maybe it might actually be Copilot Studio, but we'll have to double check with Agent Builder. But I believe there should be a way. Okay. So just to wrap up, really, my main message today is, we've been for years talking about digital transformation, right? And just having that whole concept. But I feel like today, really, agents make it is starting to make that digital transformation feel like it's happening. Because now AI is no longer really like a side project. I feel like it's really becoming part of everyday work across industries. Agents are really driving the new levels of productivity, collaboration, and innovation. But the most empowering part of it is that you get to build them, right? You get to decide what they know, what they do, and then how it can even help your mission. I know I was answering questions throughout the session, but if there's any other ones, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will monitor them. And if not, I will just kind of pause here and go to what's next. Very similar to, you know, what Kavya was mentioning with our starter kit. You know, it is a really great way if you're just starting out with Copilot or even, you know, testing the waters. This starter kit is great to helping you adopt Copilot and even the agents now, building that roadmap for you. And we can even do, you know, a really good deep security and data review. So making sure everything's aligned with your permissions and your policies as well. So we're always here to help you. But with that, I will say thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of Empowered 2026. Over to you, Cassandra.
Thank you, Catherine. That was amazing. Very insightful session about how to use agents, and it just feels like we are already in the future. What a day. We've really covered it all, from clearing the AI fog with Jamie to seeing how tech can actually scale human empathy and connection. And we've also learned about Copilot itself with real examples. And we just, you know, like went all over agents and different Copilot features within Microsoft. A huge thank you to our partners, Microsoft and Line Zero, for the incredible support that you do with nonprofits as well. Before you go, just wanted to mention that by being here today, you've already taken a massive first step, so congratulations on that. You might be wondering now what's next. So on the screen, you will see some of the offers that we have put together for you to get today. You've seen them through the session, but let's just give a quick overview of what they are. So the starter kit, Kath and Kavya went a little bit over these, but this is a really great way to start with Copilot if you don't have the licenses yet, or if you're looking to scale Copilot within your organization. We love this offer because we can really help our customers to integrate Copilot with what they are doing in their day-to-day. So getting the security all checked and making sure that your team is adopting it, and we even do some training. So it's really good to start with us with the Copilot. So please reach out to us if you have any questions on that. We also have the private executive session, which is our session that you heard at the beginning of this meeting with Jamie. But it's more tailored to your executive team, and it provides tailored insights to your organization and helps you really understand the potential ROI for your AI adoption. The last one is AI in a Day, and this is a 3-day hands-on AI proof of concept program where your team picks a high impact use case, builds a custom AI prototype, and then test it using your real data. So that's also really popular one that we have among our offers. So happy to share more details with you. To end this session, just wanted to give big thank you to everyone, and we will be sending through email the recordings, the text, and all the offers. So please watch your inbox for these recordings and all that we've covered today. Thank you for the incredible work that you do every day. We are honored to be your partner and your host, and we will see you for year number 8. This concludes Empower 2026. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you.